Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Pure Justice's Will You Be My Valentine Day Candidate virtual pitch event. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening. My name is Sasha Leggett, and I am the Executive Director and one of the founders for Pure Justice. We are a grassroots nonprofit organization that focuses on transforming the criminal justice system, creating economic opportunities, and addressing racial injustices. This evening, we are going to host a series of candidates who are running for office in this upcoming primary election that starts on, which early voting starts on February 14th. And we're excited for you to hear from them. And so today I'm going to, before we get started hearing from the candidates, I'm going to go over a few of the rules so you all can understand how the event works. So first, I just want to go ahead and just put it out there that Pure Justice does not do candidate endorsements. And so this event is not for the, suggestion or endorsement of any particular candidate. The purpose for this event is for our members and for those who are watching to be able to hear from the candidates directly. And the things that you'll hear from the candidates today will be who they are, 3 campaign focus areas or priorities and why they chose those things, and why viewers should vote for them. The candidates will also be hearing from the viewers will also be hearing from the candidate from a question that's going to be asked by our members. Some of these questions are predetermined and assigned to these candidates already. There is a list, and we're going to go in order of that list. How it works is we're going to promote each candidate from attendee to panelist and allow them to have 5 minutes to give their pitch and answer the question that is given to them. Then we will put that candidate back into the attendee position and encourage them to continue to engage with folks who are listening in the chat so that they can hear or answer some of the questions that Pure Justice may not have asked. We want you all to listen, to be engaged, and to have fun. If a candidate is not present, we will move forward from that candidate and go to the next person. It doesn't mean that we won't come back to that individual, but we will need to move forward since we have several candidates who are participating in this evening's event. And with that being said, let's see. The first candidate on the list is Carla Brayley, and it looks like she may not have entered the chat just yet. And so we are going to proceed to Representative Ron Reynolds. Candidates, those of you who are in the chat, please be prepared to accept my invitation to promote you to panelists. If you decline, you won't be shown on the screen, okay? And so we're gonna move forward with Representative Ron Reynolds. Good evening.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, we can't hear you.
Oh, okay, I'm muted. Can you not hear me?
I'm not sure why we can't hear you. I don't know if you have something plugged in.
Let's see.
You guys can hear him? Okay, they're saying that they can hear you. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I have you on mute. Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. My bad. I had him on mute. My bad. Okay, Representative Reynolds, are you ready to give your pitch?
I am ready.
All right, let's go.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Pure Justice for allowing this platform so that we can make a pitch. I think it's so important that the listeners and the constituents hear directly from the candidates, not sound bites, but directly what we plan to do. I am Ron Reynolds. I am state representative for House District 27, and I am seeking re-election. I'm asking for your support. I have served now, this is my 6th term. I'm seeking my 7th term in the Texas House of Representatives. And why am I seeking re-election? First of all, I am a grassroots person. Prior to serving as state representative, I was a president of my local NAACP. I served as president for 5 years. Prior to that, I served as president of the Houston Lawyers Association. I'm a former associate municipal judge, the youngest one at the time appointed by Mayor Leafy Brown. And I am running so that I can continue to be an advocate, fighting for the issues that progressives care about. I'm currently serving as president or chair of the Texas House Progressive Caucus, the vice chair of the Texas Legislative Black Caucus, and also the vice chair of the caucus newly formed on the climate, environment, and energy industry. And what am I seeking to do? I'm seeking to continue to fight for equal pay for equal work. I don't believe any man should be making more than a woman for doing the same job. I'm fighting for a livable wage. I filed legislation in the past for a minimum of $15 in Texas. That is to start with, and it should be a sliding scale going up, but at least $15 an hour. I'm fighting to continue to advocate for meaningful criminal justice reform. I was one of the authors, the primary authors, fighting for the George Floyd policing reform bill with Representative Sophronia Thompson and Senator Boris Miles. We made a little progress, but we have a long way to go. We need to end qualified immunity and so many other things. I'm fighting for climate change. Climate change is real. We want our future generations to have quality air. And the only way we can do that is that we study the impact of climate change and we get real and look at science. Winter Storm Uri was a disaster. It was preventable. We need to make sure that we have a reliable energy grid so that we can keep the lights on when it's frigid temperatures in the winter and extreme heat in the summer. And so we need to fix that. We need to put people over politics. In the state of Texas, the Republican Party prioritizes profits over people, and that needs to change. We also need to make sure that we have people that prioritize working families and the issues that we care about, like strong quality public schools, access to quality, affordable healthcare. Texas leads the nation in the highest number of uninsured, and that's unacceptable. Black women lead the nation in maternal deaths. Maternal morbidity and maternal mortality I don't have words for it. We need to make sure that we do Medicaid expansion in Texas. And by the way, I believe in universal health care. I believe in a single payer. Everyone should have the right to have health care so that you don't have to get sick and go to the emergency room when you could have got preventive care. Women can get pap smears. We can get preventative care so that we can treat some of these diseases and you don't go to hospital and know you got stage 4 cancer. So I'm running on a progressive values. I'm running to continue to speak truth to power, voting rights, civil rights, and many of the things that we know have been far too often neglected in this state. And I'm going to continue to be your champion on the front line, working with organizations like Pure Justice. And finally, let me say this. When it comes to economic empowerment and equity and inclusion, we know that too many minorities in this state have been left out when it comes to business procurement opportunities. I've been on the front line working in Harris County with Commissioner Ellis and Commissioner Garcia and our county judge to make sure that businesses have a level playing field so that they can be more equity in contracting opportunities in Harris County, in Fort Bend County, and making sure that we take that to the independent school districts where our tax dollars can be spread around so that minority businesses can get more contracts.
Representative Reynolds, you have 1 minute left, okay? And thank you so much for that pitch. The question from Pure Justice and our members is, we live in a minority majority county. However, Black and Hispanic families have lower median income. How would you go about addressing this issue?
Well, first of all, what I was just talking about, I would make sure that we promote equity and inclusion in contracts. Too many minorities that are competent, capable, and qualified are left out. Small businesses are the economic engines that drive our economy. When we put more of them to work, they can hire more people within the community, more Blacks, more Hispanics, more Asians. That is one of the things that needs to happen. In addition to what I talked about earlier, we need a livable wage of a minimum of $15 an hour. We need to reinvest more resources so that we put more emphasis on job training than we do in prison population. We need to do more things in diversion programs, but the most important thing we can do right now is equity and inclusion, and that hasn't been done in Harris County or in this state much. And that is why I am pushing for more equity. There is no reason we should have in this post-George Floyd era within Harris County or this area with a majority minority population, most of the business opportunities going to white men. That is unacceptable, and all of us should be equally outraged by it. So it's time to demand that there is a level playing field for minorities, and also all of these local businesses should be doing more to diversify and to hire more of the diversity that reflects our shared communities.
Rep, thank you so much. That's time. I appreciate you. I'm going to go ahead and move you back into the attendees so you can start to address some of the questions that folks have you in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you. Okay, so let's see. How do I move these? Okay. All right, guys. So next, we have Diana Alexander. Diana, I'm going to go ahead and promote you to panelist. Also, candidates, please pay attention to the chat. There is someone reminding you of your time and the time that you have left, so pay attention to that as well. Diana, you're up next. Hi, good evening.
Hello. Yes, thank you so much. My name is Diana Martinez Alexander, and I'm running in the newly created Congressional District 38 to be the first representative of that district. I'm a veteran educator and longtime community organizer and advocate. I started out just being a voter and realized that that wasn't enough because I needed to step up to get out the vote, to push for other candidates, and make sure that we were fighting for change in our community. I started in immigration work. Oh, I'm so sorry, my dog. I started in immigration work and then quickly realized that there was so much other work to be done in the area of education and making sure that we were addressing criminal justice. I'm just gonna let her out. And then, so I moved up into leadership in other organizations like Indivisible Houston and Pantsuit Republic Houston, and even had a fellowship with Rising Stars and League of Women Voters, and then realized that I had the skills because I taught middle school and can do pretty much anything, that I was ready to move up and run for office myself. So in 2020, I ran for county commissioner in precinct 3 and ran a people powered campaign. I committed not to take any money from county vendors. And in this campaign running for Congress, I also will not take any corporate donations. And so I've gotten over 220 donors from people in the community who've seen me work. They understand that I'm in here for democracy. And that's the prime reason why I filed for office, because our margins are so slim in Congress, and we have to have someone in this race who is going to fight to protect voting rights, to make sure that we make the enhanced earned income credit, which benefits many Black and brown families to put food on the table and pay bills. Make that permanent. It has now phased out. And so people are hurting because of the pandemic, and we have to address that. So that's one step. And the third thing that I really want to focus on, among other things, is the making sure that we codify and make Roe v. Wade into law so we can access abortion as healthcare when people need it. So I would love to take your question.
Thank you. The question that we have is Harris County, like most other counties and municipalities across the country, are seeing rent rates skyrocket, making housing unaffordable for many residents. What would you do to address this issue?
So, wow, you know, someone asked me about the living wage and working wage. And so really when we're talking about uplifting families, yes, housing is one data point, but we also want to make sure that we're addressing the living wage that makes sense for that community. If we have rental rates that are higher in a different city, then we need to make sure that we're addressing that in our living wage, right? But not only do we want them to be able to afford rent, we want to make sure that the housing is actually safe and actually clean. So, and I know that Dr. Plummer on City Council has made strides trying to have more oversight on housing. So it really takes a cooperation between the city, county, and federal levels. Not sure how much leeway we can get on the state level, but certainly try to espouse and push for that change to make sure that housing is within reach for families and we're not pushing out. For example, I'm against the I-45 expansion because I know that really we're robbing generational wealth from brown and Black communities who have established businesses and their schools and communities there. And how can we just legitimize that in the name of progress for a transportation mode that is years and decades outdated? So there's a comprehensive look at all of these issues. So it's not just one, it's all integrated. Thank you
so much. That's time. We appreciate you. I'm going to go ahead and move you back into the attendee role so you can continue to engage. Thank you so much. Next up, team, we have Molly Cook, and I will be promoting Molly to panelist right now. Good evening, Molly, and welcome.
Hello, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
All right, let's go.
Awesome. So thank y'all so much. My name is Molly Cook. I'm an emergency room nurse and a community organizer and a lifelong Houston area resident. And my ER work is what led me to community organizing. I wanted to do more than I could do for folks from the bedside and address the actual root causes of what makes them unable to be healthy. And then through my organizing work with Stop Textile I-45, which has been incredibly meaningful and successful, I learned about the different levels of government, how they interlock, and how the state stands in the way of local progress. So that is what motivated me to consider running for anything in the legislature. And then when I heard that my current senator would be distracted by a mayoral campaign and plans to leave halfway through, I thought, that's where I'm needed. I'm going to go for gold and run for state senate. So my campaign focus areas are public health and public safety. Everyone deserves to be healthy. Everyone deserves to be and feel safe. And the second thing that I want to focus on is environmental justice, because what is the point of progress if everyone doesn't get to feel it and experience it? And that is the guiding principle for the work that I do. And then I think that the way that we'll achieve all of that is through organizing. And in some circles, we'll call it civic engagement. And I think in this circle, I can call it love. And that's what it is being in community with each other and being loving to one another. And that's the way we'll make progress. So why you should vote for me? You know, I'm committed to these values and to this work, and the organizing work is what I really want to bring to the Texas Senate, and what I see currently missing is more of a bottom-up approach. But I do have to talk a little bit about my opponent, since he is a 48-year incumbent. So my opponent has wasted a lot of opportunities, even as chair of the CJ committee. You know, I noticed you guys were watching HB 161, 595, and 704 that were authored by Symphonia Thompson and Sherman and Dutton, and the only senator listed is Eckhart. Whitmire's name isn't anywhere near it. He's opposed raise the age. He gave no hearings for cannabis decriminalization, actually voted to expand bail in some ways, takes money from private prisons and bail bondsmen, which I promised never to do, gutted a law that would protect folks with intellectual disabilities from executions, wanted to train ninth graders how to properly interact with police and avoid confrontation, refused to air condition the prisons, even though we know there are around 8,000 folks who are wrongfully convicted right now in prison, and correctional officers wanted it. Voted in favor of state preemption of the policing budget reallocation, created a whole criminal justice oversight committee that went defunct in 2009 with no budget and no staff. So the progress that he maybe made in the 70s and 80s is not happening now. I'm here, I get the issues. I understand how stigma is killing folks. And I love that this organization focuses on the morbidity and not just the mortality, right? People don't have to die. The news focuses on the people who die, but people lose their jobs, their children, as a result of these terrible criminal justice laws. So I'm here to do the work, to be focused on public health, to believe in and work toward a future that I believe is possible. And I know the folks on this call believe are possible. We are endorsed by Working Families Party, DSA Houston, Greater Heights STEMS, and the American Youth Climate Movement. So I am Molly Cook, and I am ready to be the next state senator for District 15. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Molly. And the question that we have for you are that studies and data show both nationally and locally that Black and Latino communities have suffered the most from COVID-19. What are some ways to remedy these issues?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And, you know, I think that the fact that Black and Brown communities have suffered worse from COVID-19 is and I talk about this a lot with my work at the hospital, right? Like, life's always been fragile and it's always been very unfair and unjust. And so COVID has really put a spotlight on that, the magnifying glass on that. So I think we need to address the top-down approach to projects and policy and planning. So we need an organized and ignited electorate. We need people who understand their own power and have a way to execute it. We need to engage folks and center affected communities. So really, whether you're talking about COVID or a freeway, right? You don't make a move without asking the communities who are suffering the most. So whether it's placing a testing site or placing a vaccine distribution center or sending out education in multiple languages, whatever you do, you find the community that's hurting the most, you put them in the center, you direct resources there, and you allow them to be in charge of how folks come into the community to provide services. And that's something I'd be excited to bring to the Senate.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Molly. I'm going to go ahead and put you back in the attendee role so you can continue to engage with those on the call. And good luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Michelle Palmer, and I will be promoting Michelle to panelist right now. Good evening, Michelle, and welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Palmer, and I'm a history and government teacher in the Houston area. And I decided to run for State Board of Education a few years ago when I found out that Moses is in the curriculum of US history as having to do with the founding of the United States. And I found that a little odd. And started looking around, trying to figure out who creates the curriculum, who approves the curriculum, and so forth, and discovered the State Board of Education. My State Board of Education member at that time was putting non-factual information in various curricula, and it was upsetting to me as a history teacher. And so I decided to run. I ran in 2020 and came within 3%. That scared them. So when they redistricted, they took away all the heavily Democratic areas and added half of Montgomery County. So it's going to be an uphill battle for me, but I am willing to do the work. And I think that we need to take the message that I tried to spread through Harris County in 2020 about what the State Board of Education is and why it's important and why people need to pay attention and find out who their board member is and find out how they're voting and what the curriculum is and so forth. And take that message to the people of Montgomery County and let them know that they need to pay attention as well. I've definitely felt very attacked as a history teacher by the state legislature last session on numerous bills. I still feel attacked on a regular basis by these parent groups that come out, that want us to ignore the fact that race and history are connected. My platform in 2020, before this whole CRT thing came about, was to put more African American, Mexican American, Asian American, Native American, women's and LGBT history into the history curriculum. Because I think every one of my students should be able to see themselves and the contributions of the people who came before them that look like them in the class. We need to, I love the fact that we now have African American studies and Mexican American studies, but those are classes of choice. They're just a class that somebody chooses to take. Everyone needs to learn about those things. And maybe the people that need to learn the most are people that would never choose to take those classes. So one of the other things that I would like to see done is that we take world geography and make it one semester instead of a year, and require an ethnic studies class as the other half of that credit. I am ready for your question.
Well, you kind of started answering it, because the question that we have is, how will you promote the preservation of Black, Hispanic, Native, and Asian American history and teaching about race relations in the United States, given all of the conversation and the regulations around critical race theory? And so your position will be impacted by the state legislature, right? But how would you craft an approach to kind of combat that and still pursue these things?
So one thing I would do, I have testified before the legislature several times on education bills, and I would continue to do the same and bring a history teacher's perspective, but with the power of a member of the State Board of Education to that testimony. So hopefully they would take it a little more seriously than just a history teacher. I would do the same thing I've been doing for 10 years, and that is advocate for what is right for my students every single day in every single way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. Good luck to you. And I'm going to go ahead and put you back into the chat. Next up, we have Jenny Sue, and I'm going to go ahead and promote Jenny to panelist. And please correct me if I pronounced your name wrong. Good evening, welcome.
Okay, I'm here. I'm unmuted. Hello. Thanks for. It's Jenny Sue, but it's totally understandable that you say so because that's the traditional pronunciation. Let me know when I can start, and I will.
You can go ahead and hit it.
Okay. So, hello, my name is Jenny Sue. I am running for Texas Land Commissioner. This is a statewide race. I hope you'll learn 3 things about me and remember them: that I'm a fighter, a community organizer, and an activist. I'm a licensed attorney, a former teacher, former PTA leader. I've owned small businesses, and I'm also a working mom to 2 public school kids aged 5 and 9. Most notably in my recent history, though, I'm known for being the founder and leader of Immunize Texas. So I've been at the Texas State Capitol for 6 years, fighting for better public health care policy to benefit all Texans. And if anyone on this Zoom or watching out on Facebook Live land has ever fought with an anti-vaxxer, you know that I'm not afraid of a fight and that I don't give up when things are hard. I also want to share a little bit about my background growing up, because I think that's an important part of the reason why I'm running for this race. I grew up the child of working class Korean immigrants. They were not from wealth. They didn't have family connections. They came to this country with almost nothing to build a better life for themselves and their family. So I grew up without health insurance. I grew up in a small rural town of about 10,000 people. I was maybe one of 3 Asian kids at my school. And so you can imagine I was treated as an other by my community. And I also watched my parents lose their plant nursery business when droughts hit our town. And it's for that reason that I know that climate change is not just about accepting facts as facts, but it's also about the fact that people suffer because of climate change. People lose their businesses, people lose their ability to pay their bills, and they suffer. Now, when I think about what we need from our next Texas Land Commissioner, we need someone that accepts facts as facts, that respects science, but we also need someone with leadership, experience, and integrity. These are all things that I have. And when I say that, I am proud to tell you that I think there are people out there that see that in me. They see the kind of leader that they can trust to make the best decisions for Texas. And by that, I mean individuals like I've been endorsed by Representative Donna Howard and Representative Aaron Zwiener and Jean Wu. And I have endorsements from organizations like Texas AFL-CIO, Stonewall Democrats of Dallas, the El Paso Del Norte Tejano Democrats, and so many young Democrats groups from Austin, Collin County, Fort Bend, and El Paso. And it's because of this that I think when I talk about the future, I talk about getting Texas in front of climate change, working collaboratively with others, using my skills as an attorney and as a scientist to bring real solutions to the table and work together towards the future. I also want to talk about the importance of diversity. I'm the only Asian American candidate running statewide, and we know that 95% of our growth in Texas has come from people of color, and Asian Americans are the fastest growing demographic. So it's really important to me that I represent the future, that people see in me someone they can relate to and someone that will fight for them. I also want to talk about the fact that I think I'm the best candidate, not just because of my leadership experience and integrity, but because when we look at who the most likely Republican nominee will be, it is not a man, it is a woman. State Senator Dawn Buckingham, a hard right conservative woman. And the best person to run against someone like that is a strong, progressive, Democratic woman. So it's for all those reasons that I'm running for this race. I am passionate about this job. I would love your support. I hope I've shown you that I'm a passionate advocate that will fight for you. So I'm happy to take any questions with the limited time I have left.
Awesome. The question that we have for you is, how will you ensure equity in the distribution of resources given to the GLO by the federal government following natural disasters like Hurricane Harvey?
So again, we're talking about a leader that's in place now that does not put people first. And that's why we've seen Houston and Harris County left out of those disaster relief fund distributions. I'm someone that wants to work with local leaders. Tell me where the priorities are. Tell me where people are suffering the most, and let's make sure they get their money quickly and effectively and efficiently. So that's the kind of policy that I think shows who I am and what my values are.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your participation, and I'm going to go ahead and put you back into the chat.
Thank you so much.
Okay, guys, so it looks like the next 2 candidates who are up are both Randy Kubash and Oscar Gonzalez, neither of whom seem to have entered the chat yet. So we're going to go ahead and go to Benjamin Chu. And I'm going to go ahead and promote Ben right now to panel. Hi, Ben, welcome.
Hi, Sasha. Thanks for having me here.
Awesome. You ready to hit it?
Let's do it.
All right.
Thank you all for being here, Pure Justice. I'm so excited to be here this evening with all of you. My name is Ben Chow, and I'm running to be our next Harris County Commissioner, Precinct 4, which is a big district. It's everywhere from, you think, River Oaks and Upper Kirby, where Shepherd is, and inside the 610 loop, all the way west to Katy and everything in between. So we've got a lot of neighborhoods from Katy, parts of Cy-Fair in the southern parts, Gulfton, Alief, Sharpstown, the Midwest area, and also the Galleria. All of these different neighborhoods comprise of Precinct 4. Now I'm running to be our county commissioner for 2 main reasons. 1, because I'm a fighter, and 2, because I am a doer. My background is I am an elections attorney, Most recently, I worked for the Harris County Elections Office, where I was honored to be part of the team that helped to bring to Harris County some of the voting innovations, such as drive-through voting, where we were so successful that our Republican governor, Greg Abbott, and the Republican legislature decided that we were too good at making voting accessible for all voters. And so they outlawed everything that we brought to the table. I'm running because we have got to keep pushing back. We have got to keep innovating and keep bringing new outside the box that get things done here in Harris County beyond just voting. Things like fixing our roads, things like fighting and preventing flooding, and also to reduce crime in our neighborhoods. I'm running because as a county commissioner, we have got to get things done here for our precinct 4. Of the top issues that are important here, especially for our community, is number 1, inequitable infrastructure. Look around Harris County and we can tell you which neighborhoods have been underinvested in. I believe in investing with a lens of equity, where those that have been ignored for the longest, those that have been neglected, deserve to be invested in first. Secondly, we have got to talk about county contracts. Currently, $91 out of $100 in county contracts go to firms owned by white men. That's gotta be a joke, right? Because we are not a 91% white man county. That's just not the truth. Black-owned firms get 50 cents. Asian Americans get 60 cents. Latinos get about $4 and white women get around $2. These are facts, but how do we get there? First things first, we have got to stop taking county contract dollars when we campaign. We have got to divest from the pay-to-play system currently that has taken a hold in Harris County. That way we can really start to diversify the county contracts that we have here. Once we do that, we have got to work with businesses from Black, Hispanic, Asian American, and women-led businesses, also LGBTQ-owned businesses, to mentor them so that they know how to work to earn the grants and also to win the contracts in the bidding process for county government. These are the things I would love to bring, and I hope to earn your support, Pure Justice. Thank you so much for letting me have your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ben. And so the question that we have for you is, what is your personal definition of public safety, and what is the best way that you believe to keep our community safe?
Yes, there's so much that we can do in public safety. I think for public safety, it means that all of us have to feel comfortable to walk around in our neighborhoods at whatever hour at night or daytime, that you feel comfortable. And it's not just what happens in your neighborhood, but also if you feel comfortable when you meet a law enforcement officer. These are all the different ways that we have to make our community feel whole and just. And ways for us to improve criminal justice reform and also to improve public safety is one thing that we need to consider scaling is the current HEART program, the Holistic Assistance Response Team that currently Harris County is already piloting here in our county. And what that means is this. Currently, 911 and our police departments are essentially the go-to for everything, right? Whether it's someone committing a crime, or it's someone with a mental health illness, or something with homelessness, or someone suffering from substance abuse. Our law enforcement officers are not experts, nor do they want to take care of all of these issues. They are experts at patrols, right? Let them take care of solving crimes and working on patrols. And what we should do is expand the work that we're doing to bring on more social workers, more people who are mental health specialists to take care of the other issues, like people experiencing mental health illnesses and homelessness. And that way, we can actually provide the better care for all, but in addition, make our neighborhoods feel safer because our law enforcement is doing what they can do to make sure we have more patrols and more crimes actually being solved.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you.
You did a great job along with other candidates. You all are listening to the time. We appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and piggyback in the chat. There are people who have questions for you, so feel free to continue to engage with them there or engage with them on Facebook Live. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. All right, guys. So the next person up is Clarence Miller, and I'm going to go ahead and promote Clarence to panelist right now. Good evening, Clarence, and welcome.
Hello, everybody. How you doing?
All right, how are you?
Just first want to thank Pure Justice for having this particular forum. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I originally started with the U.S. Postal Service, and I was there for 29 years. While with the U.S. Postal Service, I served on their board of directors of the Houston Postal Credit Union. When I came in, they only had $10 million. And due to my leadership, we had $50 million after I left. I was also a union member for 29 years. And when union members didn't have adequate credit to go ahead and get a loan through the normal process, I was one of the ones that they had to appeal to get a loan. And I was very successful in assisting them in getting a loan. After that, I was a small business owner in real estate, loan officer, insurance. When the lenders were giving the clients 18 and 20% interest rates, I made sure that they got 7.5% so they wouldn't lose their home on my watch. And then for the last 16 years, I was a general manager, director of a utility district that was $10 million in debt. And when I came in, they had just built a $2.5 million wastewater plant. Waste was coming on the side. They said it had to cure. It didn't make sense to me. So I sued the developer. I'm the only one with the litigation. I won $112,000. They had to repair the plant, and I'm not an attorney, okay? The other thing was nobody like you and I were getting those $1 million contracts. So I opened it up for minority vendors to get those contracts. And when they didn't qualify, I made sure that they understood the process so they could come to the table. And I'm also responsible for $500,000 into Unity Bank, which is a Black bank. And my district was way out by Willowbrook Mall, which I had really nothing to do with Unity Bank, but I thought it was important for us to invest in a Black bank. And if you're aware now, the council, the commissioners have just deposited $5 million into the bank. But I did that in 2010, okay? I deposited $240,000, but I also encouraged another mayor district to do the same. So that's why I'm responsible for $240,000. And so I had the attorney, the tax assessor, CPA at my kitchen table, and just built that. They just built a 2.5 wastewater plant, waste coming on the side. They said they had to cure. But after 5 years, I had over $5 million that I invested in the infrastructure. So my community has never flooded. Within 7 years, I built a multi-million-dollar community center. And once I built that center, I created a senior citizen program. I fed the senior citizen for over 8 years. I used to have to pick up the food, cook the food, put the tables and chairs out. And then the senior said it was dark coming home. So around the corner on Bama North Houston, I installed lights all up and down the medium. So to lighten up the area, it looks like the Galleria, because it's very unusual for that area. I also created a 501c to further assist my seniors. And so I gave them heaters during the winter times and gift cards so they could, help pay their utility bills. My community was a very small community, kind of getting old and dilapidated. They only had one good road going in and out. And so they were driving across a lot. I bought the lot and built them a brand new road. The monument was 40 years old. So I built them a brand new monument. We built a $3.7 million park. And what's so significant about all that, I built all those projects, paid for cash without raising taxes or taking out bonds. And when I resigned, they had $10 million in the bank, okay? So I am running to be commissioner because I have a grandson and I want to make sure that he has a future, just like I'm running for your daughters, running for your sons. My grandmother lived to be 102 years old and could not vote. Back in the day, they had the jelly bean test. And once she passed the test, she had to walk 10 miles, to go to vote. And once she got there, they put the dogs on her, they put the water on her and they beat her and she still couldn't vote. So I am running, for people like my grandsons, for your sons, for your mothers and your fathers, for the people who don't have a voice, I am very committed. I'm a great steward and I'm very responsible. My 3 priorities are climate control, flood control, and law enforcement. Climate control, because we have to do something for the future, and make sure that the gas is not going in our atmosphere and keep it down to 1.5. And so our children will have a future. Flooding, our home is our most valuable priority, assets, rather. And so we got to protect that, and get rid of the potholes. Law enforcement, we're #1 in human sex trafficking in Harris County, and we're #1 in crime, and that's just not right. And so I pledge to do something about all of that. Okay.
Unfortunately, time is up and we didn't chance to get to your question for you, but that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put you back in the chat. There are members from the organization and they'll engage with you there with the question. Thank you so much for your time and good luck to you.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, you all. So Mr. Oscar Gonzalez has some technical difficulties joining us. I'm gonna go ahead and promote him to panelist, and then following him, we will have Audrey Lawson Evans, and then following her, Ranisha Bowman. Okay, promoting Oscar now. Good evening and welcome. You're on mute if you're talking. We can't hear you.
There we go. And
okay.
Glasses reflect.
Good evening. Okay, you can go ahead and start your pitch.
Okay, I started out in 5th Ward, Tuffley Park area when I was young in the 60s. We moved over to Heights. I graduated from Reagan High School back in 1980. I joined the Sheriff's Department in 88 and I left in 2018. I've got a lot of extensive training and knowledge and experience inside the Harris County system, the jails, the courts, working with Commissioner's Court. I was on the union boards. We helped get bilingual pay for many different languages, not just Spanish, including sign language. We also fought for benefits and pay increases for officers and other staff members in the Sheriff's Department. And so a lot of the stuff we did with the Mexican American Sheriff's Organization helped out a lot of people and still does to this day. I'm a native Houstonian, been here, raised here. My whole record is, all my history, school and everything else is available. So I'm one of us from here and I've weathered all the storms side by side with everybody. I'm willing to, let me put it to you this way. I served the citizens of the county for 30 years, and looking at what's going on now, I feel like I'm called back to duty. And so I'm willing to go ahead and get back in there and do this for all of us. So, do you have any questions or?
I do. Okay. Well, what are the top 3 things or pillars of your campaign, or top 3 things you want to make sure that you address for the office that you're holding or running for?
We have got to prop up law enforcement, the court system, the jail system, and get that all straightened out because this crime is too much for everybody. We do not need to raise taxes. So law enforcement is 1, taxes is 2. And then responding to floods and natural disasters, along with trying to mitigate the natural disasters as best we can, that would be 3.
Thank you. And then the question that we have from our members to you is, what is your personal definition of public safety, and what is the best way to keep communities safe?
When you're talking about public safety, that is all encompassing. And I'd like to share something with everybody is that it takes all of us, because the police and the firefighters are members of the community, but we all need each other. So it's not an us and them thing. People have cameras pointed here and there. Some people take videos of things and they're witnesses. And that's how the police get to figure out what happened. So when we're talking about, working on fighting crime and all the other problems that we have, then we all need to do it together.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we only have one question from our members to you, and that was the question that they selected for you. Do you have anything else that you want to say before we put you back into the chat?
Yes, it's really, really important for everybody to go and look at the backgrounds, histories, and question all of the people who are running for all the offices in all the campaigns. Get to know who it is that you're voting for, find out where they come from, where they stand, and pick the people that you feel will best represent you and put the people first. And so I tell that to everybody that I speak to wherever I go, because this is not about somebody just getting into office just for the glory of it. This is about actually serving the people and doing the right thing and putting the people first.
Thank you so much for your time this evening. I'm going to go ahead and put you back in the chat so you can continue to engage with folks who have additional questions for you. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Thank you.
Okay, team, it looks like Audrey has not made it to the chat yet. And therefore, I'm going to go ahead and promote Ranisha, the panelist. And I'm going to start charging my other computer. Ranisha, I'm still here.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Peer Justice. I'm Judge Ranisha Bowman. I'm the presiding judge of Harris County Criminal Court at Law Number 2. I've been there for the past 3 years. In 2018, so just to tell you a little bit about me, I am a Houston native. I was born and raised in Houston, and I absolutely love my community. I love to help my community in many ways. So immediately after I completed my law school education, and I did go to law school and undergrad at Texas Southern University. But when I completed law school, I immediately began working in criminal defense work. It was something that was a passion of mine, and I knew it was the way that I would be able to help people. After practicing criminal defense work, I chose to run for this office because it's also a position where I know that you can affect and touch the lives of so many different people, and that's absolutely what I love to do. Just to let you know a little bit more about me, I am, like I said, from Houston. I'm the mother of 3 boys. And so that's why an effective criminal justice system is very, very important to me. When I ran for judge in 2018, there had been a regime in place for many years. And while we knew that there was a problem with the system, so boldly, I took it upon, I took it upon myself to run for office and to affect some of the change that I had wished to see from the bench. When I ran for office in 2018, for the past 20 years, we had only ever had Republican judges. And so I knew that it would be a very difficult journey, but knowing that I wanted to have a court where you could practice law and know that you had a fair chance when you argued your cases. So since becoming a judge in 2019, I've worked to gain the trust of all sides. The prosecution, defense, they know that in criminal court too, you will be heard, and I'm strictly going to rule according to the law and the facts that are presented in the case. So as cliche as it may sound, courtroom should be a place of fairness where everybody gets the opportunity to be heard. And so I wanted to bring back the dignity of the court. I'm a strong proponent for pretrial diversion programs where a person might be eligible. Before I took this bench, the judge did not always allow every eligible candidate to enter a pretrial diversion program. That was a problem. Where a person might be eligible, I'm a strong proponent of deferred adjudication programs. I just want to highlight before my time is up, criminal court too is also our Project Second Chance court. So people who are accused of repeated prostitution offenses are funneled to criminal court too, so that we can enter them into a program whereby we're not punishing victims and their cases could possibly be dismissed. It's very important to me that we continue implementing community programs that help our young people, because I do get a lot of young people being a misdemeanor court. A vote for me is a trusted vote. We have been there for the past I've been there for the past 3 years doing the work, making sure that criminal court 2 is a fair place for all people to be heard. So I just wanted to remind people that a vote for me is a trusted vote of leadership.
Thank you so much for that, Judge Bowman. And we have one question for you. The question is, what role does the court play in maintaining public safety, and how would your court help to maintain public safety?
Public safety is always a main concern in the criminal court. Like I said, I'm a member of the community first. I'm a mother. In order to maintain community safety, we provide a place where defendants are called to justice. You know, as much as we can, we're trying to make sure that we are getting people in the courthouse to get their cases resolved, whether that be towards a plea agreement, jail, trial, or something like that. But community safety in the courthouse looks like justice being done and cases being heard.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We appreciate having you here this evening. Good luck to you. And I'm going to
Thank you so much for having me.
Put you into the chat so you can continue to engage with the participants and folks who have questions, additional questions for you.
Thank you for justice.
Okay, up next is Portia Brown. Portia, I'm going to go ahead and promote you to panelist. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me, Pure Justice.
You're welcome. All right, you can go.
Awesome. I just wanted to say thank you for having me. I've been so impressed by the work that Pure Justice does in our system to affect our system in a positive way, as well as in the community. My name is Portia Natasha Brown, and I'm running for Harris County Criminal Court at Law Number 3. This is currently an open seat. So what that means is that there is no incumbent judge. The previous incumbent judge actually was promoted up to a federal bench, which now that we have Biden as our president, that's happening, and I'm hoping that it happens more. We can get more Democratic judges who are there to protect people up on those benches. So right now, we have the opportunity to ensure that we can have someone like myself, who's a dedicated public servant, a public defender, and also someone that cares about our community. As a public defender in my job, I represent individuals who have been charged between a misdemeanor all the way up to serious felonies. Most of the work I do is in serious felonies, but those individuals, they can't afford an attorney. And so they're appointed by the court system for people like me to represent them. But that doesn't mean they're not getting the best representation possible. I tell my clients all the time, you got $1 million defense here, and they love that. So with that being said, I see in real time every single day what works and doesn't work in our criminal justice system. Because of that, I plan to bring that approach to the bench and the information I've learned in that, as well as my diverse background, as well as my knowledge of the law, in order to make this court fair and just for all. I'm very excited to get to work on the bench in 2023, and I'm hoping that everyone here will vote for Portia. So thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Okay, so let me go ahead and get our question for you, which is, there are many people that believe the justice system is not fair. Why do you believe people have that outlook? And what would you do to help change that perception?
Wow, that's a really good question. I'm currently a public defender, and so I have to tell you, it doesn't always feel fair. It doesn't. When you're sitting next to someone that's been accused of a crime and they haven't done it, or they haven't getting the resource that they need for mental health issues or homelessness, it definitely does not feel fair. And so I understand why people feel that way. But to be honest, the best way that we can change that perspective that our legal system is not fair is by putting in the work. It's by pulling up our sleeves and getting to work and doing it in the courtroom as well as in our community. The great thing about the misdemeanor courts here in Harris County, there's 16 of them. So they handle lower level offense cases. They've been putting in the work since 2018 to address really big issues that aren't being addressed in other places in Texas, such as bail reform. And that's what I plan to do, is also to help out with those kind of issues and continue that movement in the right direction. And it's not just bail reform, you know, bail reform is a very narrow part of a bigger issue. In general, we need to try to work out helping with pretrial services. You know, if people believe that if they call pretrial services to check in and they don't have to wait on the phone for 2 hours, they're going to trust the system more. They're going to think, okay, the system isn't setting me up to have a no-show to court or a no-show to reporting or being drug tested. Because right now, a lot of people don't feel that way. So we've got to work on creating a better system for pretrial services. In addition to that, we've all talked about it. It's backlog of cases. It's throughout the country, and it's because of our pandemic. But we've got to make sure that we're continuing to push cases to trial, or we're continuing to push to say, hey, these cases shouldn't even be here. They should be dismissed. We need to look at better sentencing options that help people. They don't actually infringe on their life. They help them and help them to have better options in their future. And so, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time this evening, Portia. I'd like to say good luck to you, and I'm going to go ahead and move you back into the chat so that you can engage with folks there, or you can go ahead and engage with them on social media.
Thank you very much.
Okay, guys. So next is Judge Kelly Andrews, and I'm going to promote Judge Andrews to panelist so we can go ahead and get started.
And I'm unmuted. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Pure Justice, for having me here tonight. My name is Kelly Andrews. I'm the judge of Harris County Criminal Court at Law Number 6. A little history. I was a defense attorney for about 12 years in 2017 when I decided to run. I decided to run because I was very sick of running into judges that would not listen to the needs of my clients. And by needs, I mean underlying issues that if we'd addressed them, could have helped them get out of the system permanently. They would just have policies and ideas about cases rather than about people. And that wasn't benefiting anyone. It wasn't benefiting the people in the courtrooms. It wasn't benefiting society. It was setting people up for failure, and I believe in setting people up for success. I chose a misdemeanor court though, because I do believe, while I believe you can change at any level, and I apologize, I just realized I wasn't on video. While I do believe,
well, maybe she's not good enough.
Maybe she feels embarrassed about her look. While I do believe that you can change at any level in the system or at any, with any kind of background, I think misdemeanor court and juvenile court are the two places you really have an opportunity as a judge and an attorney to try to help people help themselves get out of the system permanently, and that's what I wanted to do. I believe in criminal justice reform. Obviously, that's why I was running. Bail reform is a huge part of it, so I guess that would be my number one. Myself and my colleagues, immediately upon being elected, were named the defendants in the O'Donnell lawsuit. We immediately moved to have it dismissed so we could get the bail reform ball rolling in Harris County. We now have the type of system and bail reform that other huge counties in the nation are looking at as like the model that they want to follow. So I'm really proud of that. We worked together so hard to get that done. We have continued to work on it, though. It's not like a one-time thing. We had to continue to work on it to get the local rules to address the bail reform and the system. And then also we had to get the consent decree in place, because if we had not, this Fifth Circuit case that just came down 2 or 3 weeks ago would have affected bail reform. And because we had that consent decree, it was not able to. So super proud of that. I'm super proud of the work we did, because it's working to ensure that people are no longer going to get stuck in the Harris County jail simply because they don't have money, or feel forced into pleas simply because they don't have money and they just want to get out of jail and back to their families and back to their jobs. I also believe in judicial equality and equal access to the courts. So every single person that walks into criminal court 6 is treated as an individual with dignity and respect and compassion. I've worked to change policies in Court 6, much like my colleagues. We've all done a lot of work to change the court policies that were in place before we took over. Things like waivers of appearance. I often found it very difficult for my clients to come back to court every 2 and 3 weeks and for nothing, because we were just waiting on evidence exchanges or discussions with the other attorneys. It wasn't like the client needed to be there. And what it did was infringe upon maybe their job security or their housing security or their educational security because they were missing school and missing work, or they didn't have childcare, or they couldn't get transportation. And then if they didn't show up to court, their bond was revoked and they had another warrant. So now they're dealing with more money. So we waive most appearances. There's very few appearances I require a person to be at. And quite frankly, I mean, I give them a lot of chances. I mean, I think if you ever watch live, you'll see. We want people to be successful in the courts. Now, I always wanted the court system to be a place where people could get help, right? And so that's kind of my third thing. I believe in addressing underlying conditions that help to get people into the criminal justice system, things like substance abuse and mental health issues, housing insecurity, again, educational insecurity. And I like to set people up with services as conditions of their community supervision or of their bond that help them address this issue so they get out of the system permanently. I'm the presiding judge and helped create the misdemeanor mental health court. We didn't have one. We've voted to change we voted to have all forms translated into Spanish, so there's Spanish and English forms now, so that people are just getting more and more equal access to the courts. My hope is that you'll vote for me because I believe in criminal justice reform, because I've put in the work with all my colleagues, because I want to keep working. I want to expand. We all do want to expand on the work we've been doing because we want to make Harris County the model for criminal justice reform in the nation. So that's
so,
it.
Judge Andrews, thank you so much. Your time is up. However, your question, I'm going to put you back in the chat, and I want you to answer the question from our members and our, which is the judges have been in lately.
I'm sorry, judges have been what?
Been in the news a lot lately. And the question is, do you believe that judges have compromised public safety? Why or why not? Make sure that you put that answer in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and put you back there so you can upload your answer. And then I'm going to go ahead and promote the next edit. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for your service, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too. Next up, we have Juanita Jackson. Juanita, I am going to go ahead and promote you to panelist. Good evening, Juanita, and welcome. It looks like you're on mute. And also,
there you go. Hi, everyone.
Okay, great. And we can see you now. Your camera. All right, your 5 minutes is started. You can go ahead and
you guys.
Uh-oh.
I'm zooming.
You're breaking up a little bit.
I don't know if you can see me. I'm trying to get light. There we go. That's a little better.
We can see you.
I have a little questionable connection. Can you hear me?
You can go ahead and start your.
Great. Well, wonderful. Thanks for having me. I'm Juanita Jackson, and I'm running for Harris County Criminal Court at Law number 10. I have over 23 years of experience in criminal law. I am a proud Houstonian, a product of Houston HISD Public Schools, attended the University of Alabama, and I could tell people I got home as fast as I could and came back here and went to law school at Thurgood Marshall School of Law. I've been in Harris County courts from day one. At this point, I've handled over 3,000 criminal cases. I'm in every single day. I've practiced in every single court in Harris County. And at this stage, I know what works and I know what doesn't work. I'm very, very proud of the work that the recent judges have done with bail reform and with the diversion programs, et cetera. But there's more to be done. My platform is for young. Is mainly
The connection is breaking up.
With fear, develop choices. I tell them what it's like to not know what you don't, and I still didn't know what I wanted. I went through actively career counseling, and I'd like to see us do a little bit more of that with probation and with other things with young offenders. That's one of the things that once I'm elected, I will definitely do. I've already started some things in place, and talking with the trade unions. They have some programs for young people, trying to get them interested in trades. I'm a firm believer, even though I on school, everyone. And there are many careers out there that I'd like towards young people to discover that they just don't even know. And we have the, as Judge Andrews talked about, we've got to do more to support things. No longer is this, punishment does not work. It doesn't work. And we've got to do more to keep them on the right track. Again, like I said, I'm Juanita Jackson. I'm running for Harris County Criminal Court number 10. What I'd like to say too, the differences that I bring that I would bring to the bench is my background, leadership development, and life for the University of Houston and the University of Alabama. I was the youngest and the first African-American at both schools in my position. At 23 years old, I ran a staff of 100, and I was responsible for a residence hall of 1,000 students. I was responsible for from everything, food service to maintenance to everything. So I know how to supervise, I know how to lead. Awareness, racial bias issues, and I'll continue to do that as I'm elected. It's about making the courts and judges much more. One of the things that I would like to see in place more is the judges having open office hours, or we used to do years ago, donuts and coffee with the judges. I want to be open and let people talk to me and tell me what's working and what's not working. I think that's the thing that could be done a little bit more. They're doing a great job. And many of the judges on the bench. And I just want to
Juanita, okay, so your connection is pretty bad, and your time has kind of come to an end, but here's what I'm gonna do. I am going to put you into the chat to answer our question. The question for you is, what role does the court play in maintaining public safety? And how would your court, if you were to be elected, how would you help to maintain public safety? So make sure that you answer that in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm sorry about the connection. I'm on Wi-Fi, but I don't know what happened. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna go to Tweet Lee next, and then it looks like Judge Audrey Lawton Evans joined, and so Judge Evans, you will come after Tweet, and Tweet, I'm going to go ahead and promote you to panelist. Hello and welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Good evening, Pure Justice, and everybody watching on Facebook Live and also during this webinar. My name is Twee Lee, and I'm running for County Criminal Court at Law number 10. Want to talk to you a little bit about why it is so important that you elect someone in Harris County with experience and who has the community connection and the passion for serving this community. Harris County in 2018 did a tremendous job in electing some great and fabulous judges. One of the court that I'm running for, County Criminal Court at Law number 10, is a bench where the judge is not seeking re-election. So I am hoping to be elected for that bench. If elected, I will be the first Vietnamese female elected to the county criminal court. So I absolutely believe representation matters. Vietnamese is the third most spoken language in Harris County, and it is time that we have a Vietnamese judge. But back to what I was saying earlier about the important crossroads that Harris County is in right now. We have so much more to do in terms of criminal justice reform. We just started down the settlement with the bail reform lawsuit. We have so much more to do. One of the things that I want to talk about is my background and how I can help with criminal justice reform. Prior to starting law school, I worked with women who were victims of human trafficking and sexual slavery. From there, I saw how the criminal justice system treated them, and I saw what it meant to go to court for these victims. So after that, I went to law school, and then I worked at the prosecutor's office because at that time, the only way you were going to get trial experience was through the prosecutor's office. There was not a public defender's office when I was there. But I did work in law school doing the criminal defense clinic because I was passionate about defending the poor. After I left the Harris County District Attorney's Office, I went and started my own practice. Since then, I have been part of the defense bar. I have continued to mentor first generation high school students from underrepresented communities to go to college or trade school. And then I also volunteer and work with this program called the Pipeline Program, which takes underrepresented students from underrepresented communities and mentors them and assist them so that they can go to law school if that is the path they choose. And then currently right now, I was the first Asian board member of the largest criminal defense bar in the country. And I started what's called the Diversity, Justice, and Inclusion Committee. In the 75-year history of this defense bar, there has never been a Diversity, Justice, and Inclusion Committee. And one of the things that I was passionate about starting a training program statewide for judges, lawyers, community leaders, and students who were interested in learning about bias and implicit bias in the criminal justice system. The very first year we did this program last year, we did it, over 500 people attended. I think we are in a point, and if I elected, what I really want to start is the community court. The community court works with leaders, young people, the accused, and mental health experts to make sure that the accused, we do not just assume that they're going to get convictions and incarceration, but we give them the tools that's necessary for them to be successful and not reoffend and return to the system.
Thank you so much for that. And I want to ask you this question really quickly from our members. Do you believe that lack of access to housing contributes to recidivism? And as a judicial candidate, what innovative ways could you use your position to address that issue?
Absolutely. So much of our the criminal court docket and misdemeanor. Somebody's back. So much of the criminal docket and misdemeanor court is the accused who are poor and indigent, right? Many of those people are homeless. And for the longest time, people that were homeless would get charged with trespassing over and over and over and over again. So what the courts ended up doing and started working with, a lot of the courts started partnering with Beacon Services and a lot of the different organizations, Star of Hope, to ensure that the homeless population have resources and services that will help them to not reoffend and have the skills so that they can get more permanent housing.
Thank you so much for that tweet. Good luck to you on your race. I'm going to go ahead and put you back into the chat so you can go ahead and continue to engage with folks who have additional questions for you.
Thank you so much. And
sorry about that. Up next, we have Judge Lawton. Audrey, I'm going to go ahead and promote you to panelist, and then we'll go to Judge Finger next if he is still online. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Let me make sure I have my, there we are. Good
yes,
evening.
and now people can see you.
Yes, yes, yes. And my apologies. I am a working mother. I've got 2 daughters that are in high school, and their social lives become my burden. And so did not know that they had some different practices and had got out at a certain time. Good evening, everybody. My name is Judge Audrey Lawton Evans. I am the presiding judge of the Harris County Civil Court at Law number 1. I also serve, I was just elected, I was appointed to this position in August of 2021 by the Commissioner's Court. And I have been recently elected by my peers as the administrative judge for the Harris County Civil Courts at Law. In that capacity, some of the goals that I have are to increase the visibility of the Harris County Civil Courts at Law. I also want to bring some uniformity to the 4 courts. There are 4 courts that sit as the Harris County Courts at Law at this time. Our jurisdiction is civil. We handle civil disputes up to $250,000. All right. And so we are the appeals court for all of the JP courts. And most notably, we handle the appeals for all of the evictions, right? Or the evictions that are appealed, they would come to my court. And so those are 2 of the things that I want to do: increase our visibility, increase the uniformity between the courts. And then the third thing is to provide access to resources that are available. And that actually comes in, of course, we know with the pandemic, we had a huge, problem with evictions, right? There were, of course, a number of Supreme Court orders, a lot of different changes to a lot of rules. But the primary goal of the court system, as well as as our government, was to try to figure out a way to help both the landlords and the tenants and keep people in their homes. And so to that end, I'm proud of our courts. Our courts have partnered with the Houston Volunteer Lawyers Program. And the Houston Volunteer Lawyers Program basically would come in, and our coordinators would share our dockets with them. Normally in a typical day, they would be able to come into the court and see the cases that are happening, but they then could reach out to individuals to represent them if they needed representation in eviction matters. We also encouraged working with the tenants and the landlords to participate in the rent relief that was available. And, proud to say that there were hundreds of thousands of dollars in rent relief that have been paid on behalf of tenants, as well as the landlords have benefited as well. I'm a Houston native, and I don't know if you may have a question for me, so I'll go ahead and let you
I have one question for you from our members, and the question for you is: what are the biggest barriers to transparency in the courts, and how will you address this if elected to the bench?
Right. Well, okay. So there are some prohibitions for the judges, right, to say certain things. Like, I can't get on here and tell you how I would rule in certain cases, and in certain situations. And so sometimes that becomes, you were talking about some of the other judges and kind of some of the things that you're hearing about courts or other courts. And one of the biggest problems is that a judge really can't speak out on a lot of those issues, even if they have something that they would like to say. I would say that the biggest challenge has been, with technology. Our court has gone paperless finally within the last year or 2. And so, but the pandemic has kind of forced us to actually be a little bit more transparent. You can actually log in and watch my court proceedings via Zoom, via live stream. How much more transparency is there when you can actually, from the comfort of your home, see what's happening in the courts that are around Harris County? So I encourage people to do that. We are trying with our website, with our Facebook page, to give more information out to the public. But I encourage you guys to log in and watch any of these fine judges, watch them in action.
Thank you so much. If unfortunately your time is up, but we appreciate you joining us this evening. I'd like to say good luck to you, and I'm going to go ahead and put you back in the chat so that you can continue to engage with folks who have a few questions for you there as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, up next is Judge David Singer. Judge Singer, I'm going to go ahead and promote you to panelist. And yes, as Sharia put in the chat, thank you so much for your patience. Good evening, Judge Singer, and welcome. Oh, and you're on mute, and your camera's still off.
Sorry, you'd think doing this every day I'd get pretty good at it, but my camera is freezing out on me, so I apologize for that.
That's okay.
Thank you very much, Ms. Leggett, for doing this. You know, one of the things that we as judges have the hardest time is getting information out about who we are, because nobody knows who we are. There's more than 100 of us in Harris County, and it's very difficult for voters to get information about judges. So I really appreciate you doing this to give us the opportunity. My name is David Singer. I'm your incumbent Democratic judge in Harris County Criminal Court at Law number 14. I was also elected in 2018. There we go. And I'm going to tell you that I deserve to be reelected for 3 reasons. Number one, I'm the most experienced, the most qualified for this position. I've earned the position. And I also represent the progressive leadership that I think groups like Pure Justice care about. I have 38 years of experience. My opponent only has 8. I'm the only person in this race that has worked at the Court of Appeals for 2 years. I was an assistant district attorney in Harris County for 6 years, and I was in private practice as a criminal defense lawyer for 28 years before I was elected. Now I've been a judge for 3 years. I think that broad perspective is important when you're a criminal court bench, to have seen every side of an issue, to have worked with families that have gone through the criminal justice system and understand the challenges that they face and what you need to do as a judge to level the playing field. I've represented over 4,000 people in my career. My opponent has never represented anybody charged with a criminal offense. I think that's something kind of experience that you actually need to be a criminal court judge, to have actually represented people and families charged with crimes. I think I've earned the position because this is the 4th election cycle I've run on, so I'm not just coming to the party late. I started running for office in 2013. And I ran in that election cycle in 2014. That wasn't so great for Democrats, or to be on the blue side. It was a red gubernatorial year, and then we, as judges and candidates from 2016, and then again in 2018, we were able to turn this county blue by our efforts campaigning for our positions. So I've earned my position or my stripes in the party. I've been a member of the coordinated campaign in the Harris County Democratic Party 3 times. And also my actions on the bench, I think I've earned it. I've fulfilled my campaign promises. I was talking about bail reform decades ago when I experienced as a lawyer on a daily basis people having to plead guilty just to get out of jail because they couldn't make small amounts of bond. And that was a big evil in the system, and I'm proud that me and my colleagues have fixed that, ending that system in the misdemeanor court. So I've fulfilled my campaign promises. I've piloted the MAC program in my court to get that up and running, so we don't have judges selecting and paying the lawyers that practice the indigent defense cases in their court. That's not a good situation. It needs to end, and we are starting to end that, and we'll have that fully ended by the end of this year. So I was able to fulfill my promise on doing that as well. And I also represent progressive leadership. I've been endorsed by the Our Revolution of Harris County, the Greater Heights Democrat, Area 5 Democrats, the Bay Area New Democrats, the Bay Area Democratic Movement, the South Katy SD 17 precinct chairs, and also by former Harris County Democratic Party Chairman Lane Lewis. So I have the endorsements of progressive groups that show that I am actually a true progressive. I've earned my position, and I think I've earned a second term in that position. Given, if you look at my docket is one of the lowest dockets in the courthouse. I've tried more cases than any other county court judge down there. I've tried 45 cases so far, and only 6 county courts have tried more than 25. So I think I've earned my spot from the point of doing my job. I haven't taken any of my vacation time in 3 years because my job is the most important thing to me, and I want to continue to do it. So I'm asking for your support. I left you a minute to ask me a question.
Great, thank you so much, Judge Singer. And the question that we have for you is similar to a question we asked previously. Given all of the news about judges in the media recently, do you believe that judges have compromised public safety? Why or why not?
Thank you so much for that question. I was really hoping when you asked Judge Andrews that you would ask me that question. No, I mean, it's really ridiculous to be blaming judges for crime. I mean, we would be having to predict the future if you wanted us to know what people needed to be locked up forever and what people don't. And also in the county courts, you know, we don't have the power to hold people in jail. You know, with the bail reform and it was necessary, you know, everybody in county court is entitled to a bond, and there's very limited situations. And also, the other thing I want to say about that issue is go back and look at the crime statistics in our county in the 80s and 90s. I was a DA in the 80s, and I can tell you that the crime in Houston and Harris County was in the 80s and 90s than it is right now. So yes, there's been some short-term spike from 2020 to 2021, but if you look long-term, there has been no major increase in crime in Harris County. It's just a fallacy when you look at the numbers. You know, judges, we have to follow the law. We have to give the presumption of innocence and give people due process. And public safety is certainly part of that. And I consider public safety every day when I set bonds and set conditions of bonds. We have to be prudent about how we enforce public safety. We need to get rid of systemic racism in this community. I scrutinize probable cause on every case, and I found no probable cause more than any other judge in 2019 because there is racial profiling going on in this community, and we need to do something about it.
Judge Singer, thank you so much for your time this evening. We appreciate you coming out. Good luck to you. And I'm going to go ahead and put you back in the chat so you can continue to engage those who have questions for you. Thank
you for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay, next up is Jarrell Rogers. Okay, Jarrell, I'm going to go ahead and promote you to panelist. And then following Jarrell, we have Jamel Hayes. Okay, Jarrell, you.
All right, so good to be here. Thank you. Okay, y'all hear me? Just thumbs up. Just making sure. Okay, I'm using this iPad for the first time on this. So anyway, my name is Jarrell Rogers. I'm a candidate for Harris County Criminal Court at Law number 14. And look, for me, it's simple. It's about community, community, community. If you look at my background, I have a background that is strong and present in the community. And so for the last 8 years, I've been an attorney. I handle murders and capital murders at the DA's office. But before that, before I was ever an attorney, I knew I had this passion for the community and for groups that were marginalized. And so I first came to Houston originally as a member of Teach for America. I was teaching in Sharpstown Middle School, and you don't go to Sharpstown Middle School. You don't go teach over there with the LPs and the cholos and the gang issues we had over there if you don't have a heart and a passion for that kind of thing. I could have taught many other places, but I wanted to be at Sharpstown, and so I was open to that opportunity, and I loved it, and it made me better for it. One of the biggest things that I do is that I'm a mentor in Big Brothers Big Sisters. Again, I didn't decide to do this just because I wanted to run for office. This is something that I saw that I could bring to my community, that I saw that there was a need for children who didn't have a father figure in their life. And I saw that that was a gap, a role that I could fill in, and I wanted to do that. And again, that's been an enlightening experience. I usher at my church. And so people always laugh at that one. But the reason I bring that up is because, again, I have this servant mentality, and I just love serving. And so in addition to the community experience that I have, I also have the legal experience that's necessary to be a judge, right? I've handled the most serious cases. I've handled sexual assaults, murder, capital murder. I've done all these different things. And so I know that I have the experience necessary to be a judge. And so that's what you look for when you're looking for a judge. You're looking for leadership. And so you expect for someone to have years and years and years of experience. You would also expect for them to then see different positions of leadership or different things that they've done in the community. And that's currently lacking in Court 14, which is why I'm running for that. Particularly, there's no talk about in that particular court of that judge with that experience. yet not being chosen to be a presiding judge, doesn't do mental health court, doesn't do any of the extra things, the things that are essential for the community. And so that's why I'm running for Court 14, because I recognize the importance of community. You can't talk about bail reform and other decisions if you're not present and active in the community.
Thank you so much, Jarrell. The question that we have for you are, what are some of the misconceptions that you've seen when you hear people talk about bail and bond in the news, and how does that create harm to public safety?
Sure, that's a great question. And so one of the misconceptions is that people just automatically assume by a certain offense or a certain allegation that someone should just be locked up. And they're wrong, because there is this thing called due process. We have laws, we have the Constitution, and people are entitled to that. And so a lot of times, news stories are about getting clicks. News stories are about what's going to be sensationalized, and it does put it puts the elected officials in a particular situation, because when you hear these things, you're not always getting the full story. And as has been mentioned before, I'm not a judge, but I do understand and know that judges always don't have the option to respond. And so what you do then is that you encourage people to make sure that they're being informed themselves, and that you're getting the community involved. And I think that's what the judge can do. That's, I think, is the importance of community, because that judge will then be able to get the community involved, whether it's being active in the community in terms of bringing the court to different functions, whether it's church events, schools, or whatever, but making sure that the community knows that they are involved and that they have a role in the process, I think will empower them to make sure that they can make informed decisions and opinions.
Thank you so much, Jarrell, for that. We appreciate you coming and joining us tonight. I want to say good luck to you. And I'm going to go ahead and put you back in the chat so you can continue to engage with others.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Jamel Haynes. And I'm going to go ahead and promote Jamel to panelist. And then following him, we have Andrea Bell. Good evening, Jamel, and welcome.
Good evening. Can you see me?
Can see you and hear you.
Okay, awesome. My name is Jamal Haynes, and I'm running for judge for 183rd Criminal District Court here in Harris County. It's a felony court that handles everything from small drug possession cases all the way up to capital murder. One of the reasons I'm running for judge is because I believe it's important that we build trust and confidence between the community and the criminal justice system. For the past 4 years, our community has watched things happen in the streets, and then whenever you hear the outcome from court, you're wondering, how did this happen? It doesn't make sense to people. So I believe that we need to have courts that are transparent, meaning people need to know what's going on. You should be able to sit in your home and watch Zoom or the live stream what's going on in court. Currently, we don't have that right now. Courts should also be fair to everyone, meaning when a person steps foot in the court, it doesn't matter who you are, where you came from, how much money you have in your pocket. You're a human being first, and you should be treated with dignity and respect. Second, we have a problem with efficiency. Too many people have cases pending, and people are waiting 2, 3, sometimes 5 years for a trial. Now, that's not fair to crime victims. That's also not fair to people sitting in jail waiting to get justice. A little bit about me. I'm a public defender. I have 14 years criminal trial experience. And in the public defender's office, I handle serious felony cases, meaning the murders, aggravated robberies, human trafficking, white collar crimes. And I also mentor and train younger lawyers, both here in the public defender's office, in the local defense bar, and also across the state of Texas. I was a prosecutor for 4 years, and I left as a felony prosecutor. When I was in private practice, I fought for the community with the South Lawn gang injunction, meaning we fought against the Houston Police Department and also against the Harris County Attorney's Office whenever they were racially profiling young Black males in the South Lawn area and labeling them as gang members, trying to kick them out of the community permanently. So I want to take my fight and my passion for helping people to the bench. One of the first things I would like to do is attack this backlog that we have in criminal court. And that backlog is being caused by discovery, meaning it's the process where the prosecutors turn evidence over to defense attorneys. And where the problem is in the system is that we have body cameras now. And it's taking the prosecutors 6 to 8 months to get the body cameras and turn those body cameras over to defense. Now, if somebody has a federal case, those same body cameras are being turned over within a matter of weeks. That's not fair. We should have the same response time in state court. And I believe that we can do that if we have something like a docket control order. Another thing I'd like to change is community supervision and how we handle community supervision. Right now, we have a system where people are threatened in order to try and have them comply with community supervision conditions. If we have made a decision that somebody's on probation, we need to invest in them, meaning we need to see what's going on. What are they lacking? If there are issues with education, we need to help them get GEDs, not just give them a task and tell them to achieve it, help them enroll in classes and give them help to finish the classes. And I think that that will help people with getting through the process and becoming a better and more productive member of society. Because with the GED, you can enroll in college if you choose. You can also enroll in the trade if you choose. And that way you have access to better jobs, which, making more money, and you'll be able to have the type of life you want to have. And those are a few of the things I want to do as a judge.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. The question that we have for you is, do you believe that lack of access to housing contributes to recidivism? And as a judicial candidate, what innovative ways could you use your position to help address that issue?
Lack of housing is a very interesting topic, because if someone doesn't have a place to lay their head, they may become desperate. I'm familiar with some of that because during Hurricane Katrina, my family was homeless. And so when a person is homeless and they don't have resources, you start coming up with ways or thinking of ways of how to get things that you need to have. And as a judge, what you can do is connect people to resources in the community, and also through some programs that they may have through the government in order to help people get housing, because housing is one of the most important things people can have, along with food.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate you coming and joining us this evening. I want to say good luck to you on your race. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put you back into the chat where people have a few questions for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bo G for 183.
Thank you. Okay, team, next up we have Andrea Bell. Andrea, I'm going to go ahead and promote you to panelist. Andrea, did you get promoted to panelist? Okay. Let's see if you can join. I know I saw your chat earlier that you may have had to step away. And if that is the case, then I'm gonna go ahead and promote Judge Davis, Judge Deidre Davis next. Good evening, Judge Davis. Thank you for coming. Okay, and you're also on mute.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Hello.
Good evening.
Let me see. Does this one do it? Okay, I'm almost right. We need like a little, what happened? A little practice thing before we get on here. Is that's good? Okay, I think we're kind of here.
Okay, and go ahead and start your pitch.
Okay, I am Judge Deidre Davis. I'm judge of the 270th Civil District Court. I am your judge here in Harris County that is here to make sure that law and order equals justice. I am a judge who is proven. I've proven that I am dedicated. I've proven that I'm determined. I've proven that I'm devoted. And I have really great news that my coordinator and I were going over the fact that we actually have completed 104 trials. We've reached 100 trials on January 24th, and we now have 104 trials, and we're super excited about that. And we're just making sure and keep the wheels of justice turning. With my practice, I was civil litigation paralegal for 10 years and owned my own firm for 22 years. And so I bring a very unique perspective to the bench. I have the ability from being an entrepreneur to be creative, be innovative, and think outside of the box. And those skills have helped tremendously. As you know, in 2020, we had the whole pandemic situation where things were shutting down. Well, Deidre Davis, instead of focusing on what we could not do, I focused on what we could do. And what I could do was continue to come to the building every day, continue to have hearings every day, continue to have trials. And during that pandemic, when everything was shutting down and in the end starting to open up in 2020, I was able to have 45 trials during that period and finish the year with 52. That was very instrumental in me getting to the wonderful 100 trials, well, 104, but trials that we have now. I am a person who believes that a public servant is here to serve the public. Before I got on the bench, I consistently helped the public. I was president of a ministry, Exhibit Hope. One of the things that we did, we brought libraries and built libraries, spiritually based libraries into prisons. I held an event for 8 years that I created called Listen and Exchange, giving people opportunities to listen, to network, to build bridges. And so I've brought that into the courtroom. I've brought in trying to teach people, trying to educate people. I've had over 1,000 students come into this courtroom, many of which I had to pay for the buses myself because some of the school district, NHISD, some of the schools don't have the budget to give their children field trips. So me, myself, I paid for some of those buses to come. And when the children would come, we would talk about dreams. We would talk about the fact that if they dream it and they believe it, then they can achieve it. And so I created a program about leadership for the students. I created a program for lawyers. I've had over 30 young people come into here to intern, and that's so that they can see what's going on in the court, learn what's going on in the court. And also, maybe they want to be a judge. They can see there's a variety of jobs here. I created a program and a seminar on expunctions. I found that even though I'm a civil judge and that's going to trial is a criminal matter, the civil judges, we still deal with expunctions. And with the expunctions, people think that when they're arrested and the charges are dropped, they think that everything's okay. And it's not okay. So I created a 45-minute seminar on how to do your own expunction, what expunction means, just what's going on with you. And I have gone all over Texas because it's Texas based to talk about that, and we'll continue to talk to people about expunctions. I am one who remember those 30 students and 30 young people I've had come through. I've had paralegals, I've had college students, junior college, high school, and law students, because I was a paralegal for 10 years before becoming a lawyer. And I understand that people need access and they need to understand and know what opportunities they have. So with this, yes.
Judge Davis, I'm so sorry that your time is up. I'm sorry. We're putting in a chat time. And so I want to go ahead and I want to thank you so much for stopping by. We do have a question for you, and I'm going to encourage you to answer that question in the chat, which is what are some of the biggest barriers to transparency in the courts, and how would you address that if reelected? So thank you so much for your time. I want to say good luck to you on your race. And we appreciate you being with us this evening.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, team, so the next up was Denise Brown, but she did send a message and said that she was not going to be able to attend this evening due to a conflict. And so the next up will be Diane Kirby. Ms. Kirby, I'm going to go ahead and promote you to panelist. Good evening and welcome.
There we go. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, and you are go ahead and start your pitch.
Thank you. I'm Diane Kirby. I'm running judge of the 280th Judicial District Court. Let me explain to you what that court is. It is a unique court in that it is the only court in the state of Texas that is specifically designed to handle domestic violence cases. This court has been in place since 2009, and there have been some pendulum swings from far right to far left. And at this time, what I want to do is to bring back balance to this court. And there are four major things that I'd like to do. One, I want to provide equal access to the courts by creating a digital courtroom where people can file their own protective orders and they can file their own responses. And people who have gotten lifetime protective orders, which are highly controversial, can go in and file their own motion to modify. I also want to restore families who have been torn apart by lifetime protective orders. At this time, protective orders are being given against children or given against the parents towards the children. And there are 14, 15, 18-year protective orders being issued, which means that the child is essentially bastardized because that child has no parent until it is an adult, and sometimes until it's far, far into adulthood. I also want to create a better system of getting signed orders to the appropriate law enforcement agencies in a timely manner. When you wait with those protective orders and they don't get to the law enforcement agency in a timely manner, people can be hurt in that interim. And so we don't want that. And most importantly, I want to provide counseling, rehabilitation, and relocation services for applicants who have been harmed. There are some people in the world who don't care what document is signed. If they want to stalk, they're going to stalk. If they want to hit, they're going to hit. And so sometimes you have to move people away from the situation they're in order to get them to a better situation. And you can't do that with just relocating them and then they're there, no job, no money, and no way to take care of themselves. So what I want to do is to work with the unions to get these applicants into some of these training programs. There's nothing in the books that says a woman can't be a plumber or an electrician or any of those things. And so I think it's very important to think outside the box and come up with creative ways to help people to get education, relocation services, counseling, and job services. And that's what I would like to do. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about me. I'm a native Houstonian. I hail from Fifth Ward, Texas, yay, yay, yay. And graduated from Smiley, went to UT Austin for law school, for undergrad, and went to Thurgood Marshall School of Law for law school. I am a mom of two, and I'm a fur mom of 2 dogs and 1 cat. And when I am not handling my business, handling my practice of 16 years, I'm actually running around with those kids. And so I want to make certain that applicants and respondents have the same liberties that I have, in that they have a right to have a basic life. They have a right to see their children. They have a right to be with their children if it is safe for them to be there. And those are the things that I would like to do.
Thank you so much for your pitch, Ms. Kirby. The question that we have for you is that there are many people that believe that the justice system is not fair. Why do you believe they have that outlook, and what would you do to change that perception?
People believe it's not fair because it wasn't fair. There are a lot of situations where, for instance, men walk into this particular court that I'm running for, and they get a raw deal. There are many, many people who come in and they are seeking protective orders, but because of their gender or because of the way that they present, they don't get those protective orders. In my court, every one of my staff and anyone who works in that court as some type of ad litem or court representative or liaison will have anti-bias training. We'll have sex and violence training. We'll have trauma-based training to make sure that they understand how these people are to be treated, and the fact that every person who comes in there, whether they are the applicant or the respondent, they come in a place of hurt. And when hurt people, people get hurt. And so we want to make certain that everyone who comes in is properly trained and knows how to treat those people who will enter the court that I plan to preside over.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kirby. That is time. We appreciate you for coming and joining us this evening. I want to say good luck to you, and I'm going to go ahead and put you back in the chat where people have comments and questions for you.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, we have Judge Jermaine Tanner. Judge Tanner, I'm going to go ahead and promote you to panelist. Good evening, Judge Tanner, and welcome.
Good evening. How are you?
Doing well. You are able to go ahead and start your pitch.
Wonderful. Thank you for having tonight's event. I am Jermaine Tanner. I am your presiding judge of the 311th Family District Court. I am running for re-election this election cycle, and I would appreciate your support. So I'm a family court. We handle divorces, custody issues, child support issues, adoptions, CPS cases. And so that's the jurisdiction that we're in terms of the kinds of cases that family judges preside over. Before I got on the bench, I had been practicing law for, at that time, 15 years before I got on the bench. Now I've been in the area of family law for almost 19 years. But I got into family law while I was a law student at Thurgood Marshall School of Law. And this was back in 2000, 2001. I was a part of a pilot project as an internship through the Attorney General's office called the Founding Fathers Project. And myself and two other law students, what we did with our mentor at the time, who is now my associate judge, we went to the Harris County jails, 1200 Baker Street, 701 San Jacinto, and I believe the address to the one across from Baker is 1301 Baker Street. And we spoke to the inmates and taught them what their rights were in regards to their parental rights, child support issues, their rights regarding conservatorship, possession and access, with the hopes that once they got out of the situation that they were in, that they would go back into society and be good parents. And that's what sort of catapulted me into the area of family law. Once I started practicing and built my practice, I spent time doing a lot of pro bono work on Saturdays in particular with the Shape Center. And in being there, again, I was able to segue what I was doing with the Founding Fathers Project and do that with individuals who were coming into the Shape Center on Saturday mornings and explaining to them what their rights were. In 2014, I got involved in the political structure here in Harris County, starting with Annie's List. At that time, in working with Annie's List, myself and my good friend Sudi Samandari, who's now my treasurer, Abby Kamen, and the late Diane Mosier. We were the co-chairs of the the steering committee here in Harris County to get women elected into office. Seeing a need out this way, I live in Cypress, for better representation. I became a precinct chair and the president of Cypress Tomball Democrats. By 2017, having been practicing family law at that point for such a long time, I knew that there needed to be a change in the judiciary because they simply just didn't reflect the community, none of the judges. There were certain cultural nuances that came before the courts that I didn't think that they understood before they made their decisions. And a lot of them just hadn't lived the life of the litigants that came before them. I'm a single mom. I know what it means to be a single mom and a working mom. I know what it means to be a co-parent and have to deal with the father that you're not with. So I understand life from that perspective. And I knew that that is what we needed on our benches. And so I ran. The political climate was right. In Harris County, it was right nationally. And I ran for office and ultimately we won. But what I ran on then was to bring efficiency, fairness, and a fresh perspective to the 311th. And that's exactly what we did. Myself and all of my colleagues, we brought compassion back to these benches. We brought respect, we brought dignity back to these benches. And I think each one of us did something different to address certain needs in our individual courts. For example, I was able to bring down the costs that were being shelled out for court appointments. Before I got on the bench, that court was issuing about $500,000 in court appointments every year, and I slashed that in half, thus saving the county over the course of 3 years, maybe close to $600,000. And then there were other things that we've done. I see my time is getting limited here, but I do want to say that we've done a good work in our family courts. We have a wonderful administrative judge who has made sure that we have become trauma-informed courts, and we're looking forward to continuing that during this next cycle and this second term, should you vote for us, and we're hoping that you vote for us. I see that my time has stopped. Again, I'm Jermaine Tanner. I'm your judge for the 311th Family District Court. I got so much more I want to say, but let me go on and shut it down. Jermaine Tanner.
Judge Tanner, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I am going to go ahead and put you back in the chat so you can continue to say what you want to say and engage with folks there. And also respond to our question, which is, why do people think the justice system is not fair? And how do you plan to change that perspective on the bench?
Will do. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, wait. I'm going to put you back in the chat. And then up next, folks, we have Leah Shapiro. Leah, I'm promoting you to panelist now. Leah, good evening and welcome.
Hi, good evening. Thank you.
All right, you can go ahead and start your pitch.
Okay, I'll dive right in. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Leah Shapiro, and I am the judge in the 315th District Court. I would say that people elected me to bring change, make things better for kids and families, and I've done so. Just kind of a baseline for the 315th District Court, we handle dependency cases. So when there's allegations of abuse and neglect against a child in a home, and then we also handle delinquency cases. So when there is an allegation that a criminal offense occurred between the ages of 10 and 17, so as young as 5th grade. We also, in the 315th Juvenile District Court, we have two specialty courts. We have the Court 360, which is the Juvenile Mental Health Court, as well as the Care Court, which is the Juvenile Sex Trafficking Court here in Harris County, of which I'm actually a founding member of back in 2011. It is through my 15 years of experience as a former public defender, prosecutor, and now as a judge that we've made some amazing changes in our courtroom. Some of my campaign points as requested. So one of the priorities was working on efficiency in the 315th. We inherited the largest docket of the 3 juvenile district courts. And so I am proud to say that even despite COVID, our CPS docket has reduced in half, which means that we are not only handling the backlog that we inherited back in 2019 when I took the bench, but we are also efficiently, handling the cases that we get today. We also lead the juvenile district courts in taking to disposition or finality the most felony offenses while maintaining the lowest TJJD dispositions. We have also reduced pretrial adjudications. Detentions of pre-adjudicated juveniles. I apologize. It's getting later. I'm a morning person. And so what that means essentially is that we are keeping kids in the community. We are keeping them in their schools. And we are also, keeping their families involved in their rehabilitation. The 315th has also piloted the dual status docket. We are the only court in Harris County that has a docket dedicated to kids who are involved or in the custody of the state, either TMC or PMC, as well as have a delinquency case pending, which means that they are our most vulnerable population. They are the kids who have a higher likelihood of recidivism into the adult criminal justice system, as well as they're likely to be homeless or unhoused. So we have a docket dedicated to them to eliminate duplicate services, have both of their teams present for accountability purposes, and then the kid sits with us at the table so that their voice is heard. And then we've also ended indiscriminate shackling, which is a decades-old practice where kids, regardless of age or offense, who were being detained in the detention center, when they made their court appearance, they would come out in all fours. And that means that their hands were in handcuffs, their ankles were in shackles, and it was connected by a chain. So if you asked them to raise their right hand to swear, they would do the little wrist, or if they got emotional seeing their parent, if they got emotional seeing a parent, they'd have to bend over to dry their tears. I ended that practice in my courtroom because it matters the moments to these children and how we engage them and walking into an open space. Because again, it was regardless of age or offense. So kids as young as 10 and 11 years old, this was happening too. We've also gone one step further and we now dress out all the kids. So they appear in the courtroom in khakis or a t-shirt or polo of their choosing. So that if you were to walk into our courtroom, today and the kid was from the detention center, you wouldn't know if they came from the audience or from the detention center, right? Because everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. I'm hoping to have your support in your vote. I do have a primary opponent, so it's really important to keep on the bench those of us with the system understanding and legal experience in order to continue this type of system change, because there is work to be done. One of the things that I am hoping to do also is, again, reevaluate how we as a court system are engaging and accessible to the kids and families. And so that is, I'm calling it the court in the community. I need to come up with something far more clever, but what it is actually having access to the courts in the communities throughout Harris County. We are huge. Engaging the court is difficult. It takes time, it takes money and transportation, with parking, kids have to be pulled from school. And so it would be allowing different locations throughout Harris County to remotely zoom into our courtroom, again, to eliminate and alleviate some of those burdens so we can focus on community, and the community engagement could be taking place in those locations, right? So we're just engaging and accessing the court system in a different way. I know that I'm running out of time, sorry.
No, it's okay. Thank you so much, Judge Shapiro, for joining us this evening. I'm going to ask you to respond to our question in the chat, which is, do you believe that lack of access to housing contributes to recidivism, specifically in your case with the juveniles that you see come through your courtroom? And what innovative ways can you use your position to help address that issue? And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and put you back into the chat. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and good luck to you on your race.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Veronica Nelson. Veronica, I am going to go ahead and promote you to panelist. And you all please try to pay attention to the time. They're telling you in the chat when your time is coming up. So just try to pay attention to that. Good evening, Ms. Nelson, and welcome.
Hello, everybody. I will try to go quick so I can answer some questions as well. My name is Veronica Nelson. I'm actually originally from California, but I moved here about in 2007 after law school. I went to law school at the University of Alabama, and while my second and third year at Alabama, I actually worked at the public defender's office. I was able to try about 5 cases as a third year. From then, I went to the district attorney's office where I was able to try everything from a Class C all the way up to capital murders. I was also a senior prosecutor in the mental health and juvenile division, so I have experience with that. In 2019, when we got the blue rush and got all new judges, I was actually asked to be a staff attorney for the county court judges. So my job right now is basically to make sure the judges are up to date on all the rules and regulations, make sure they're following the consent decree, do teachings on bail reform, do teachings on docket control management, also do teachings on ethics and stuff for the judges. I've been there in the fights. Every time they have an idea, I am the person behind it to try to make sure that it runs smoothly. And so that's a little bit about me and my background. What I plan to do when I get to the 42nd, and I'm running for the 42nd, which is a brand new felony court bench, so I'm not taking over anybody's job. When I plan to get there, I want to do 3 things. One, I want to address the backlog. I'm sure everybody has been talked about the backlog in Harris County. One of the ways that I can do that is through a scheduling order. I've actually been able to write up a couple of scheduling orders for the misdemeanor dockets, and they have ran smoothly and have actually decreased the backlog significantly. So I plan on bringing that to the 42nd. Second thing I want to do is I want to create a second mental health court. Right now, there is 23 felony courts, and there's only one mental health court, one mental health docket for those courts. But we have our jail, that is the #1 mental health facility in Texas. So things are not adding up. With my background in mental health through the DA's office and actually through my job here, I do want to create a secondary program for the felony courts. Finally, I want to look at some community reentry programs. What we are doing right now in misdemeanor court is we're trying to start a community fair to do petition for non-disclosures. And what those petition for non-disclosures are, for people who don't know, are for individuals who have old convictions, old defers that are stopping them from getting job applications, apartments, loans, things like that, because they have something on the record and don't know that they're eligible for a petition for non-disclosure that can non-disclose that to those elements and have them able to get those applications and loans. We're starting a community fair, starting with people that are automatically eligible for it, and then going from there through the different petition for non-disclosure rules. So those are 3 things that I want to bring to the 42nd with some of my background in partnership with some of the misdemeanor judges.
Thank you so much for that. And our question for you is, what role do you believe the courts play in public safety? And how will you make sure that you carry out that role while on the bench?
I think it's the responsibility of the judge to consider public safety in many of the things that he or she determines, such as bail, such as bond conditions, and so forth. It is actually written into not only the Code of Criminal Procedure, but also the statutes to include that the judge makes sure that they are ensuring that the safety is, or the public is safe in whatever decisions they make. So obviously it plays a big role. But at the same time, you don't want to conflict and have people say public safety, and that somehow makes due process stand in the back, right? So that's a balancing act that a judge has to consider and have to do when they're on the bench. While I'm on the bench, I will also consider public safety, due process, and everything that the CCP and the statute states that the judge must consider in their determination. One of the ways that judges are able to determine and keep the public safe is based on conditions, not necessarily confinement, right? So if you see somebody has a drinking problem or alcohol problem, you can address that with bond conditions, not just confinement. And so I think that with everything that the judge does, they consider public safety in every answer that they give and every decision that they make. And one of the things they can do to help with public safety is also get into the community and educate the community on laws, right? And so one of the important things is getting out there and talking about bail reform and talking about public safety and talking about what the court system does and inviting people into the court so they can see that the judges are making those determinations based off of various factors, public safety being a huge one of them.
Thank you so much, Veronica, for joining us this evening. We appreciate you for participating in this panel, this event. And I'm gonna go ahead and put you back in the chat. There are folks who have questions for you, but I want to tell you good luck on your race, and make sure that you continue to stay engaged. And I'm gonna go ahead and put you back there to the chat now.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Hillary Unger. I'm going to promote Hillary to panelists right now. Hillary, it is your turn. And thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, hi. All right, I guess my video is not great, so I
you.
Let's see. Oh, this is better. I turned off the light. All right, so my name is Hillary Unger, and I'm your judge for the 248th Criminal District Court, which is a felony court, and we handle everything from repeat shoplifters and theft cases, all the way to capital murders. And I came in 2019 with the Blue Wave, and I've worked very hard since coming in, along with everybody else who came in with me, to bring more fairness to the courts. And I can tell you, for one thing, in my court specifically, and I know in all of the other courts, no one anymore is being denied bond without a hearing. There's a return to due process, which is, oh God, okay, ghost. All right, but I don't want to focus on too many statistics, but I am going to focus on one. And one of the statistics is, since 2018 in my court and in many of the other courts, the number of people who have successfully completed probationary sentences have more than doubled. And I can tell you, in my court particularly, the reason for that is because I'm working very closely with people that are on probation and trying to work past any problems that they might have or obstacles that they have to completing the probation. Another thing that I've done is really change the focus away from getting people help at the time of sentencing to bringing that forward from the time that they first come into my courtroom. And that has made a huge difference. So I've been able to work with reentry and Jennifer Herring, who, if you have not heard from her, the woman is a saint. And she's been able to work with the people that are in my court, get people medication before they get out of the jail, get them hooked into service providers. I've been able to get people housing. We've talked a lot about homelessness, and I've been able to get a number of people housing through her, through reentry program, through the Harris Center, and through other programs as well. I think that is a very big problem in Houston, and that is something that we are addressing in our courts. Also, I've been able to get people involved in drug treatment, get people attached to different service providers, and have people start on anger management as a condition of their bond. And that is something that I believe is very important, and it does protect community safety, and it also reduces recidivism. One of the things that I really believe is that, the taxpayers, we don't need to spend all of our money on prisons, because the community, ultimately, what happens is somebody gets out of prison and it doesn't help with recidivism rates. They're more inclined most of the time to get arrested again. What we need is good community-based programs to change people's lives. And, one of the things that I did before I became a judge is I also worked on CPS cases. And one of the things that I've noticed is I was talking to people that are like 13 years old, kids, that they expected to go to prison. I found that getting somebody to change their mindset, getting somebody to go and take a different path is oftentimes harder for them to walk that path than it is to go to prison. But you know what? It's worth it. It's worth it to society. If we can get people to live productive lives and be productive members of society. I do have a primary opponent. I'm not going to talk about her much because she does not talk about herself at all. She's not campaigning at all. But I did want to mention that I have received pretty much all of the endorsements from programs and parties that do endorsed in the Democratic primary from Labor to Caucus, Area 5 Democrats, Mexican American Bar Association, and so on. I came to Houston in 2007. Like everybody else says, I came as soon as I was able to. I am originally from Miami. I've been a prosecutor and a defense attorney in New York. I worked in the South Bronx, also worked in Brooklyn. Came here where I've been a defense attorney in state court as well as in federal court. Another thing, as I said before, I also have experience working with CPS cases, and I've also worked a lot with mental health cases. I represented people that were facing civil commitment proceedings. So I've been able to see the devastating effects that mental health and poor mental health has had on people. And that is why it is so important to me to get people the help that they need from the moment they get into my courtroom.
Thank you so much for your time. I'm sorry, your time is up.
That's okay.
Just yelling at me in the chat. Time. Okay, and we have a few more candidates to go. I'm gonna go ahead and put you back in the chat, but one of the things that you did say is that you believe in community-based solutions. And I want you to talk about some of those community-based solutions in the chat that you believe help to reduce recidivism and how you can help anchor some of those things in your courtroom. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, and good luck to you.
Sorry about the ghost.
It's okay. Okay, up next we have candidate Andrea Bell. Andrea, I'm going to go ahead and promote you to panelist. Guys, please pay attention to the timer so that we can keep pace and not go over into other people's time. Okay, Andrea, thank you. You're on and you can go ahead and start your pitch.
Great, thank you so much for having me. I'm Andrea Bell and I'm running for the 185th District Court. I have a background in urban development and worked with at-risk youth and young adults with nonprofits in Houston's 2nd and 3rd wards before law school. I'm a lifelong Democrat and worked for Senator Dick Durbin back in 2007. I currently am a teacher at South Texas College of Law. I'm taking this semester off to campaign, but typically for the last 4 years, I've been teaching their trial litigation course at South Texas, which is where I graduated from law school. I also am a contract employee with the city of Houston and currently teach Fourth Amendment rights, Fourth Amendment citizen rights to cadets as well as in-service officers at the police academy. And I did that in response to some of the illegal search cases that ended up in shootings that we've had here in Houston. I also advocate on behalf of murdered children for the DA's office. I handle 1/2 of the cases in Harris County where a child under 14 has been abused and murdered. I am running for the 185th for a couple of reasons. One is to help with the case backlog and increase access to justice in that court. That court's only been to trial 10 times in the last 3 years, while many of our hardworking Democratic judges, and we have so many wonderful judges on the bench, have been to trial 30 or more times in that same period of time. This docket size went from one of the lowest dockets in the courthouse to one of the highest dockets in the courthouse, from 900 to over 2,600 cases. And cash bail is still very much alive and well in that court. As of today, there are 376 people who are in pretrial custody in that court, and the Republican, when she was on the bench, had about 277 cases for people in pretrial custody. And 40% of those are for nonviolent offenses. I think we need to take bail reform seriously. It can work, it can keep the community safe, but we really need to look at these non-violent low-level offenses that are still getting $1,000, $2,000 bonds. I mean, that's not helping anybody. That doesn't serve anybody. So that's one of the things I want to do in that court. I also want to create youthful offenders court. This will be a program for 17 to 25-year-olds who are in the adult probation system. Right now, when you've got a 17-year-old and they're on probation, they get a laundry list of things to do, and a probation officer they meet with maybe once a month. And they're told, good luck, go get your GED, stay out of trouble. And then we send them back into these unstable housing situations. We send them back into gang environments, and that's it. I grew up with a dad in prison and a mom with substance abuse issues. But my family had social capital, partially because I look like this. And so I know that so many of our kids who show up in adult court, because that's what they are, come from backgrounds where they have the same type of parent situations, but they don't have social capital. So they don't have access to resources. I want to create a program, and I've already started meeting with nonprofits and community leaders in the Houston area, which has been really useful thanks to my background in nonprofit work, who are willing to step up and be mentors, provide stable housing, using the resources that are already there in the community to build community support for these young people in the felony system so that we can get them through their deferred successfully without them going to prison. And we can make sure that they've got a path out through access to jobs and continued mentorships. And that is my passion project in this court. And I think I have a minute left.
We have a minute left. Great. So we have one question for you, Andrea. And the question is, given all of the news about the judges in the media lately, do you believe that judges have compromised public safety? Why or why not?
Yeah, so I think the increase in crime is due to lots of factors. I think in order to protect public safety, we do have to be serious about bail reform, because the purpose of bail reform was we don't want Robert Durst walking around continuing to kill people, right? Because he's wealthy and on bond, while we have a poor, low-level drug offender who's sitting in pretrial custody. That was the purpose of bail reform, to equalize the disenfranchisement between the classes. To do away with the disenfranchisement, to equalize the classes. And so I think that we do need to be more intentional about considering community safety with our more, I was timing myself for you, with our more serious violent offenses, but we also need to be intentional about giving PR bonds to our low-level offenders as well, and people who are accused with low-level offenses. And I'll go ahead and put in the chat the in-custody numbers for anybody who's interested. You can sort on it by court and see how people are doing in their certain individual courts by clicking on the bar graph in the bottom.
Thank you so much, Andrea. I really appreciate you joining us this evening and participating. I want to say good luck to you and continue to engage with folks in the chat. And like you said, put that information in there.
Yeah, thank y'all so much.
Okay, next up we have Tanya McLaughlin. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going. And Tanya, I'm promoting you to panelist right now. And Tanya, you are on. Welcome, good evening, and you can go ahead and start your pitch.
Thank you so much. Make sure I'm centered here. I am Tanya McLaughlin, and I am honored to be included in this forum by Pure Justice. I am running to be judge of the 262nd District Court. This is a felony court. Aside from being a lawyer, I'm a wife and a mother of 2 small children. My 16-year law career has been dedicated to criminal law. I graduated in 2006 from South Texas College of Law, where I am currently Vice President of Admissions for the Alumni Board. Following law school, I was in the district attorney's office before leaving about 2.5 years in 2009 to pursue my passion for criminal defense and post-conviction appeals. I have been blessed to be the voice of many and a successful business owner. I am running to be judge of the 262nd, but because this court has to move forward on the backlog of cases and has to stop letting all violent repeat offenders out on bond. This court is not doing its job. The increase in violent crime is real. The 262nd leads the district courts in the most murders committed by defendants already on multiple bonds. So far in this term, that means 11 victims have been murdered by a defendant on bond out of this court. This breakdown of justice affects all of us. Bond conditions do not protect the public if a judge is not willing to revoke bonds for violations. Many defendants struggling with substance abuse and mental health are in limbo because the cases are not moving forward, and a catch and release approach adversely affects them. It's not uncommon now to have felony clients with 7, 8, 9 open felony cases, which gets to a very unmanageable amount of cases to help someone. As a dedicated criminal defense attorney, I understand the need for our judges to have compassion and a mind for rehabilitation, but a complete refusal to move the dockets and keep our community safe is also not the answer. We all deserve to live and raise our families in Houston neighborhoods that are free of violent crime. I am the only candidate for the 262nd to have prosecuted, defended at the trial level, and defended in post-conviction appeals in the 262nd District Court, and I genuinely pray for your support.
Thank you so much, Tanya. The question that we have for you are, what are some of the misconceptions that you have seen about bail and bonds as reported by the news, and how do some of those misconceptions harm public safety?
I think the misconceptions of the community in general, I think that they're confusing what is required at the misdemeanor level from what is required at the felony level. Bail reform law specifically requires misdemeanor cases to be allowed out on bond. They're required to do that. Only felony cases can be no bonded, and that is to protect the community. So that's the difference. Is the misdemeanor candidates this evening, they don't deal with this situation the way the district courts do with the felony courts. And I am very passionate about my clients, and I work very hard for them. But if they are struggling with unmedicated medical illness or substance abuse, if you let them on bond 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, they get to a place where I can't help them any longer. And so I think that there's a little misconstruing of, it's not that just letting people on bond and they're doing these terrible things. It's that some of these people, they need help. They need medication. They need help with drug and substance abuse and poverty. And they can't get that if they're in and out of the system so fast that no one's catching them.
Thank you so much, Tanya. We appreciate you joining us this evening. There are a few questions that folks have for you in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and put you there. But we want to wish you good luck on your race and hope that you continue to engage in these conversations with the community.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Catherine Thomas. Catherine, I am going to promote you to panelist, and you can go ahead and prepare to start your pitch. Catherine, welcome and good evening. Oh, you're on mute. Okay.
Hi, Sasha. How are you?
Hi. Good evening and welcome. You're welcome to go ahead and start.
So thank you so much for having me this evening. My name is Catherine Thomas, and I am running to be the next judge of the 184th Criminal District Court. It's one of the felony courts here in Harris County. Just to give you some background information on me, I'm a native of Houston. I actually went to the High School for Performing and Visual Arts downtown. And I'm a double HBCU graduate from Spelman College and Howard University School of Law. While at Spelman, I actually interned under President Obama's administration in the Office of Presidential Correspondence. And then at Howard, I actually did indigent defense work where I represented clients in DC Superior Court. Came back to Houston, currently serve as a trial attorney at the DA's office, where I have tried everything from a traffic ticket to a murder case. But some of the things that I'm most proud of that I've done at the DA's office is last year when the protests happened after George Floyd's execution, me and a small group of prosecutors actually pushed the DA to dismiss 500 cases for people who were peacefully and lawfully protesting. In addition to that, we also started an implicit and explicit bias training that all prosecutors had to actually complete at the office. And now I train about 48 misdemeanor prosecutors in the misdemeanor division, which is our third largest division at the DA's office. In addition to my work at the DA's office, I actually started a Black History curriculum during the pandemic, where I was able to start with one of my colleagues a program that includes quizzes and tests for children who are middle school age, because we saw that there was a deficiency in the school system. But the reason I'm running is because I've seen too many deficiencies in our criminal justice system. And I believe that judges should have the judicial temperament to be concerned about both the rights of defendants as well as the concerns of victims. They should be involved in the community in and out of election season. And if I'm elected, I actually want to play a more interpersonal role in being involved in the community. And that's by creating a youth and community court. And so right now we have a mental health court, we have a sober court, we have a veterans court, and we actually have a juvenile court, but we have nothing to address the age group of people who are charged between the ages of 18 and 25, who are charged with nonviolent felonies, who are our most vulnerable population. And what I actually want to do is work with community partners to not just do a probation, because what happens is people who receive a probation, they report to a probation officer, but we're not addressing the root cause of why they keep returning back into the criminal justice system. So what I want to do is work with community partners to do mentoring, drug and alcohol rehabilitation, career placement, just to name a few. I also want to implement implicit and explicit bias training amongst court-appointed attorneys. What I found, through my work in the court system is that many times people will have an understanding of the law as applied to the case they're appointed to, but they may not have an understanding of the people who they actually represent. And I think that that's an integral role, that plays an integral role in how you represent someone. You knowing their concerns, you knowing what affects them, why they keep returning back to the criminal justice system. So I'm happy to answer any other questions. I think I addressed everything. Thank you so much.
Yes, you did. Okay, and the question that we have for you, Judge Thomas, is that there are many people who believe that the justice system is not fair. Why do you think people believe that? And what will you do to help change that perception if elected?
Well, it's not fair. And the reason they believe that is because there is truth to that. I mean, the first thing that we see is there is a disproportionate amount of people who are of color, who are poor, who are involved in the criminal justice system. And so I think the reason why they believe that is because there is truth to that we've seen it day in and day out. But what I also think that we can do is to appoint people to the bench who have the lens to see when things aren't right, have the lens to see that probable cause sometimes doesn't exist when you say, oh, they were in a high crime area and somebody was jaywalking and this is the reason why the police pulled somebody over, right? Like having that lens as a person of color to see, okay, this is probably not a case that we need to move forward on because I know what it feels like to be discriminated against, to be marginalized. So I think the first thing that we can do is elect people who understand the concerns of the community.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for being with us and answering that and trying to get everything down into this 5 minutes. We can't have everybody here all night, but we appreciate you. We want to say good luck to you on your race. And I'm going to go ahead and put you back into the chat because it looks like there are some folks who have some questions for you. And I encourage you to continue to engage with them there. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next we have Monica Singh. Monica, I'm going ahead and promoting you to panelist. So we can go ahead and get you started. Monica, we can
Thank you.
And we can hear you.
And
And
you got me?
yep, you can hit it.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks a lot, Sasha. I mean, you're running into 9 o'clock, so you've been a soldier through this. So thank you for this forum. I appreciate your time. My name is Monica Singh, and I'm running for Harris County Civil Court at Law number 4. It's an open bench, which means I'm not primarying anyone and no one's sitting on it. Harris County has the opportunity to make history by electing the first female Sikh judge in the nation. My parents immigrated here to Houston, making me a native Houstonian. I'm a wife, I'm a mom of 2 teenage boys, and I've been an attorney for the past 20 years. I've tried over 100 cases to juries. Now, I have the experience of knowing the bench that I'm actually running for. And while I have a wealth of experience as a civil litigator, I'm equally dedicated to fighting for justice and equality as an activist. I serve on the board of the ACLU, the Sikh Coalition, and I'm also on the grievance committee. With my involvement in the community, I'm well versed in the resources that our community has to offer. And what I'll do is I'll marry them with the court that I'll serve in. Moving to my priorities, my opponents have not been in the court for the past 20 years that I've been practicing in and out of them. I've worked with these judges on the requirements for implicit bias training, and I've been appointed by many courts, specifically to all the county courts as a mediator. And I've settled many cases through the mediation process. Now, aside from formal mediations, my skills as a litigation attorney help me understand the frustrations of clients and attorneys as they move through the court system. And as a result of the past stalling of cases in the county courts, I became very innovative in the ways to resolve my cases. So I brought the most difficult attorneys to the table to help find a middle ground. And so even in the last 10 years at my current firm, I settled over 705 cases in litigation. I've always led the entire number of settlements that I was able to execute, and while I was going to trial in courts at the same time. The reason that this is important is because judges can ensure that their courts are administered in a way that allows for both of the processes to occur in a timely manner, whether it be settlement or trial. Finally, as an attorney, I value my time and money, and I realize that the transparency of where you are on the trial docket is not only important to families, attorneys, but their clients and witnesses as well. My background and perspective is the right representation of Harris County to serve on this bench. So while my opponent is proud of his Houston Political Officer Union endorsement, I'm proud of the following that I've received. I've gotten HBAD, the Caucus, Our Revolution, Mexican Bar Association, Greater Heights, Run Sister Run, Women Making History, and valued members of yours like Carvana Cloud. But now I'm looking for the ultimate endorsement, which is your vote that starts this Monday. Again, I thank you for having this forum. I yield my time back since you've been here, and I'll take any questions in the chat.
Thank you. Well, I do want to have one question that for you, which is, what role do you believe civil courts play in maintaining public safety? And how do you plan to ensure the public knows that you're carrying out that role if elected to the bench?
So because we're a civil court bench, we only hear civil disputes, and public safety doesn't come into our courtroom unless people are suing somebody for something involving public safety on a civil matter. Now, with whatever is presented to us in the courtroom, I promise you, because of my perspective and how I've been on the ground as an activist, I'm very aware of where people come from and who they are. I read body language really well. I understand cultural diversity and community diversity. I'll apply that to whatever I hear before me, whether and how it can impact public safety is definitely going to be favorable to the greater good of our community.
Thank you so much, Monica. We appreciate you engaging with us tonight and showing up and telling people why it's important to vote for you. And encourage you to engage with folks in the chat. There are some questions for you there. And good luck to you on your race.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, and then for our last candidate this evening, we have Judge Lori Gray. And Judge Gray, I'm going to go ahead and promote you to panelist. And you can go ahead and get started and prepare for your pitch. Okay, Judge Gray, good evening and welcome. Thank you so much.
Good evening. Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you.
And are you able to see you?
We can see you and hear you.
Your speaker is not working. Okay. let's see.
We can
Can
hear
you hear me now?
Yep.
You can hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. And thank you so much for this opportunity to talk to you tonight. It's forums like this where you can actually get the message straight, get the message clear, and I'm honored to be a part of the panel here tonight. I am the presiding judge of the 262nd Criminal District Court. I'm a native Houstonian. I grew up as a child walking with my mom in our neighborhoods from the grassroots level, working on campaigns for, you probably remember, Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. I door knocked with my mom, working in our community. I grew up in Acres Home, which is a community that has actually developed at this time, but you have to remember, many, many years ago, it was a community without bus routes, without lights, without health. And the work that my mom demonstrated in our community with those who she worked alongside gave me the sense of responsibility for my community. I became a debater in high school, participated in the debate team, and worked to win championships across the state. I was a member of the debate team at MC Williams High School, which was a high school, which is no longer a high school. And it's tragic because the winnings that were produced from that school left a legacy. And so I consider myself that legacy. I went on to grow a practice. I built a practice, and for over 20 years before I took the bench, worked in 21 counties on a regular basis, defending those who were accused of offenses, but had a small voice. In many of the courtrooms that I practiced in, I was the only one. I was the only African-American in the courtroom. And I was the only voice for those who did not have a voice. And it was very difficult for me to close my practice and to contribute as a judge, but I knew that the needs were great in my community. And that is why in 2018, when I did run, and I closed my practice to serve for the community. And what I've done, because of what I know, over 30 years of practice, many of the people who are in the criminal justice system suffer with mental illness. And I want to bring out one point that no one has mentioned, but crime is actually down in Harris County. Crime is down, homicides are up. And that is something that has not been brought forward. But one of the things that I've been able to do is to also preside over the mental health court. I work over as the head of the treatment courts. There's the START court that actually is a court for those who have been accused of drug-related crimes and they're seeking treatment. They're getting the treatment through the START court program. There's programs that I've been committed to, but mostly I've been committed to mental health, education, and resources, safety in our communities, safety for those who are coming before the bench, and fairness. I ran with justice for all of the people, and that is what I'm continuing to pursue, and I'm asking for your support. I do not have a Democratic opponent, and I would ask that if you would continue to support me, I will continue to support everyone who comes before my court. And I can't hear anything, but I'm not even sure if we're able to communicate.
It's okay.
It makes it difficult.
It's okay, because you can only hear me. Everyone else is communicating with you in the chat.
I'm not able to hear the speaker.
Oh, I apologize, Judge Gray. I don't know if you have. I don't know if you have on headphones or headsets plugged in, but I do want to thank you so much for your time this evening, and we're gonna go ahead and move you to the chat so that you.
Okay. I can hear now.
Okay. Well, I was just telling you, thank you so much.
Okay.
We're gonna move you to the chat.
Okay.
So they can continue to talk to you there. Okay. Thank you. Okay, team. Woo, we made it. All right. So on behalf of Pure Justice, the Pure Justice team, our members and our community supporters, Sasha Leggett here again, the executive director and one of the founders of our organization. I wanted to say thank you. You know, civic engagement is extremely important, and this is one of those things that are you know, pillars to that civic engagement. Learning who's running for office, learning more about them, doing your research, and asking questions. And so we encourage you all to continue to do that. As I mentioned before, this was open to all candidates who expressed interest and filled out the interest form in the allotted time. And so there are several of the candidates that you may know who are running who did not get a chance to participate this evening, unfortunately, but it doesn't mean that you should not still consider those candidates. Do your part, get informed, and make sure that you go out to vote on February 14th. That's the first day of early vote. Pure Justice will also be having our general meeting that evening. And so we're considering leaving a space through our general meeting agenda for some of those candidates who didn't get an opportunity to participate this evening to come and talk to our members there. But thank you all so much. Thank you for your patience. Thank you to the candidates that participated. And thank you for everyone who joined us tonight and asked some really great questions. And so with that, I want you all to have a great, safe evening and have a great remainder to your week. Good night.
They're more inclined most of the time to get arrested again. What we need is good community-based programs to change